If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over. And I've done it over and over and over. So it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me.
You heard it from the horse's mouth. Exactly what we all thought. Where do you stand, Tolos? I don't mean where you're standing at this exact moment. I mean, where do you stand when it comes to what happened over the weekend? It's the most popular story in sports, and we're going to talk about it, Diesel, regardless of who your NFL team is, regardless of what story you think may be bigger than this. Here we are, Shedeur Sanders. How could the son of the great one fall so deep into the weeds of the NFL draft? How could it happen? We dive into that right now. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He is Diesel, sitting across from me on this Monday. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you. We're taking donations of tissues. We're collecting tears on the Cry About It hotline at 844-FAN-PHONE. Diesel, now that the dust is settled on the 2025 NFL draft, we know that Shedeur Sanders is headed to Cleveland. How bad do you feel for Shedeur and what happened this weekend?
You say you heard it from the horse's mouth. I say you heard it from the horse's ass. I mean, the guy did everything he could possibly do to tank his draft stock leading up to the draft. Everything he could possibly do. And we're shocked that his draft stock tanked. Like, why are we so surprised? Cole, here's the crazy thing is, we were prophetic. Back in January, we talked about this on the show. We've got a promo running and have had a promo running for the last 3 months talking about this. I want to play this audio for you, Cole. I like this because it gives me an opportunity to say, like, hey, I'm smart and I was right.
Yeah.
So here's a little clip of our promo about Shedeur from back at the end of January.
Well, now Shedeur Sanders, Cole, has said that he will not participate and throw at the NFL Combine. He will instead do his very own pro day. But I don't like people opting out of the process.
So that's the promo that's been running.
I like it.
This video, this is a chopped up version of it. We didn't go back and find the actual day, but this video was posted up on the Fan Upstate's YouTube channel immediately after we had the take live on the air.
Shedeur Sanders said Saturday he is unsure if he will throw at the NFL Scouting Combine. Sanders is attending the East-West Shrine Bowl, but will not participate in practice or in the game.
We have another Caleb Williams on our hand. Why would you not want to do anything you can do to potentially jump Cam Ward?
I don't know how much weight those games in the Combine really has.
I know, but it's players opting out of the process. Say, I don't want to do all the things that you're supposed to do to have other teams get a good look at you. I don't like it.
Are you
man.
surprised?
No, I'm not surprised.
I'm not. I mean, come on.
My name is Shedeur Sanders, and I don't have to do anything to ingratiate myself to 32 potential employers. My name is Shedeur Sanders, and how come nobody wants me?
Diesel,
Same guy.
I want to pretend like you and I are back in the Stone Age where there were typewriters and printers. Let's stop the press for a second. Let's stop the show right on the heels of getting into the Shedeur Sanders. I got to read this text. This is funny. And this leads into the title of what I changed my Twitter live video that a lot of you are watching right now to. Before I read the title of what I changed it to, our friend of the show, Pete Yannity from WSPA 7, at 3:01. Having seen the alert come across my social media moments ago, I now have an image in my brain that is creeping me out. What is he talking about? The title of my live stream today on Twitter is Why is Diesel Nude? Tune in to find out. So now
I was hoping you were going to forget about this.
Stop the press. Ladies and gentlemen, what are they back in the day? Stop it. Stop the press. You know, they have a big breaking story coming out, right? Stop the machines. Unplug them. Stop the show. Turn off the lights. Pete Yannity's already upset about the image that's ingrained in his mind.
Pete, don't act like this isn't something you've already seen. I've gotten into your inbox many times, slid into Pete Yannity's DMs.
So
come on.
I knew by putting that title on the tweet, it would raise some concern.
Oh.
So here we go. You ready?
Do we need to explain why we're doing this for those the uninitiated who don't know?
I think so. So I'm assuming there are one or two Tolos out there that have no idea what we're talking
right,
about. They didn't listen to Thursday's show.
Right. So on Thursday's show, we set a little challenge for Cole and I to predict who the first two players drafted at each position group were going to be. You get 2 points for getting the first player drafted in that position group correct. You get 1 point for getting the second player drafted in that position group correct. You get no points for anything else. And we went down our lists. On Thursday, Cole went very chalk. I feel like he kind of cheated a little bit, to be honest. He was like, let's look at Mel Kiper's big board. Let's just go 1-2.
Boy.
And he kicked my ass. Oh, we're doing this.
We're doing it.
Okay.
We're doing it.
Okay.
This is from a concert.
Yeah.
You know what they're trying to do?
They're trying to get somebody to take it off.
They're trying to do it. Here we go.
Right, we got to do this. I got to take the headphones off.
4 hours, ladies and
4
gentlemen.
hours.
4
Wow.
hours of the show. Diesel is going nude.
Not nude.
Oh, but we got to say
That's
nude.
illegal.
Okay,
You can't
you're right.
do it.
You're
It's
right.
illegal.
You're right.
Can I get some music to take this off to?
I mean, what do you want? You want some dance funk music or something? I mean, here he is getting nude in studio, taking his shirt off because he lost a bet. And you know what?
Man, something just covered the screen. How did that happen?
The stream just went down all of a sudden. You hear the rooster crow, and we're getting a little funky. Diesel, I know you can't hear this, but here you go. For those not watching on the stream, if you're not watching right now, you're really missing out. Oh, boy, there it is. The gun show has arrived. The gun
look at
show.
that farmer's tan, too. You can't buy that.
Oh,
That's
boy.
not built in the, this is built in the gym. This is built on the golf course, my friend.
What a gun show we are treated to. This might be the best show ever. This might be the best show we've ever done in the history of radio.
I wish I could tell you that this is the first time that I've been topless in this studio, but it's not.
Second time?
It's not. Yeah, I'm not good at bets, man. I lose bets all the time. All the time. But hey, you know,
where do we go from
look at
here?
these, look at these, look at them go.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm sending Pete Yanity since
your mom's already married. Don't send that to her. The marriage is still fresh. You don't want to ruin anything.
I'm sending it to Pete Yanity right now just so he can know.
Oh, God.
Why
Pete, I apologize for what you're about to see.
This is
I apologize.
What a great day. What a great day.
Is it legal to show? Can we show bits?
Huh?
What?
Oh, that's
what did you you came close to saying something.
Sorry.
You know, just got a little I want to T Swizzle. Is today's show R-rated?
Yes.
Are there ratings? There's no ratings on the internet. Just
Now he's waving the tag. This is the flag. This is fantastic. Like, this might be the best start to a show ever. So we're going to get back into Shedeur. We're going to get into Sanders because
for propriety's sake, I feel like I need to do this.
Your arms would get really tired if you did that for 4 hours. Before we get back into that, let's keep it off the rails and go to the phone lines where Rick and Greer
just a little
wants to. There you go.
Hey,
no nipples there. What's up,
no
Rick?
Nips.
Rick.
What's up?
Hey, Rick.
I don't know how to work the lines like you need for that.
That's probably for best.
Let me ask Cole. I called to ask you.
Oh boy.
Where do I get tickets for? I want to go see the Spartanburgers tonight, but every time I go to their ticket office, I can't get anybody. What do I do? Just get them at the door?
If you want to watch the Spartanburgers tonight, you're going to have to go back on YouTube, Rick. They don't play tonight.
It says they do. The 28th.
It's Monday. They don't play Monday. They don't play on Mondays, Rick.
What you have to wait till Tuesday, and then they're on the road this week, right?
Yeah, I had a special date coming up from North Augusta.
No, they're not playing today.
Yeah,
no.
but does your date from North Carolina know about your date from North Augusta, Rick?
No, she don't. The girl from Myrtle Beach is very famous, and I can't let
So Rick's got three. Rick, we're in the middle of talking football here, and you call us to ask how to get tickets to a single A baseball game.
And by the way, they're off today. They're in Rome. If you want to see them this week, you've got to drive to Rome, Georgia, the mountains of Rome, Georgia.
Crying out loud, Rick.
If you've ever been to Rome, you know it's a pretty place in Georgia. But if you want to go see the burger, it's about 3.5, 4 hours.
GPS it, Rick. We don't have time for this.
It's a good ways.
I wonder if I could take my day.
Yeah, you can. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks.
God.
Are you serious?
Speaking of off the rails.
Are you serious?
Yes, we're serious. That is what Rick does. Rick is the definition of off the rails.
The fact that Rick was able to get one woman to go on a date with him, let alone 3 from multiple states. He's got a North Carolina, South Carolina, and a Georgia girlfriend.
This is fantastic. Best show ever so far.
Ahoy, sailor. You got a girl in every port.
It is completely off the rails.
Yeah.
Welcome in. If you just tuned into Wire to Wire, what a start. What a Monday. Diesel is shirtless.
Yeah.
On the stream. Our numbers, we will have record-breaking numbers today on stream because of
something's going to break. Either the camera or the number of people we have on the stream.
So, Diesel, here's my take. Look, I say a lot on this show that both sides can be true, right? I have said that multiple times. Both things can be true. My take on this entire situation with Shedeur Sanders is that the NFL, whether you like it or not, spoke clearly. They said, Diesel, we don't view you, Shedeur, as that guy. You may view yourself as that guy, and your dad may view you as that guy, but we don't view you as that guy. If you were, you'd have been taken in the first round. The NFL made a stand over the weekend, and people are livid.
Here's the truth. I think Shedeur Sanders is probably a second-round quarterback, right? There's a lot of holes and a lot of deficiencies, but he is a talented guy. He's by talent exclusively a second-round guy. But when it comes to all the intangibles, all the personality traits, that's what pushed him down to the 5th round. You know, there was a report out from Rick Neuheisel, coached at UCLA, covers the NFL draft. He's good. People know who Rick Neuheisel is. He was told by an NFL insider who's in one of the team's camps that Shedeur received a FaceTime mid-interview, and he took the call. It wasn't an emergency. It's not like his girlfriend was in a car accident. It's not like something crazy happened. He just got a FaceTime.
Just said, "Oh, wait a minute. Let me grab this.
Hang on. My buddy John is FaceTiming me, and he took the call and he stayed on the call for the duration of the call in the middle of his interview. This is the exact blueprint on how you tank your draft stock. You have this overinflated sense of self. You come up with this branding where you're flashing watches all the time and you're doing it constantly. You got this special cube built for your draft day with your brand plastered all over it. You've got all 32 NFL teams' hats on a rack because any one of them could take me. They all want me. And then you got your dad as part of the circus. You opted out of the pre-draft activities, the combine, the senior bowls, etc. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen?
No, I'm with you. I think you said it right. Look, like I said a minute ago, with this situation, as with a lot of situations in life, I really have tried, Diesel, to see both sides. I really have. I've tried my absolute best to see both sides, and I do. But I agree with a lot of things you just said. Here's this interview that was a few months ago, and all I want to do, I don't want to tell you listeners out there, I don't want to tell you Tolos what you should believe. There are radio show hosts that do that. I'm not that guy. You can formulate your own opinion, but I'm going to play this audio from his dad, and then you tell me if you're surprised.
One of them is going to be one.
Let me kill the Diesel taking the shirt off music and then get back to that. You were still partying over there.
It's going to be one. That's what I'm talking about. One of them is going to
speak
be
it into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4.
So I'm going to start back over from the very beginning here.
One of them is going to be one.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be
speak it
one.
into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4.
Is that Stephen A?
No, Dion.
Now,
No, with Dion.
Oh, no, it's not. It's this is a podcast, and I don't know the guy's name. But he's, by the way, for those that don't know, he's talking about Travis and Shedeur, right?
this is subjective because I know where I kind of want them to go.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget Shallow, okay?
Mhm.
But I know where I want them to go.
He almost
So
forgot
there's
Shiloh.
certain cities that ain't
What's your name again?
gonna happen. So there's certain cities that ain't gonna happen. So there's certain cities that ain't
I'm not. It's not buffering.
So
it's
certain
me
cities
doing that.
Ain't gonna happen. It's gonna
Okay,
be a
you
big
on
man.
point.
It's gonna be. It's not. I'm sorry. It's gonna be an Eli.
So basically, I play that interview and I ask you, Tolos out there, I want to hear from you at 844 fan phone. Are you surprised? Because, like Diesel said, I really do try to see both sides. But come on, who's surprised by this? Diesel, the NFL, they evaluate everything. And I know that, look, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, for us to act surprised is absolutely ludicrous. We shouldn't be surprised.
No, we shouldn't be surprised. Number one, you can look at all of the off the field reasons, but in locker room reasons, there's an overabundance of quarterbacks in the NFL right now. There's an overabundance of veterans who are being dealt and traded probably to have starting, if not immediate number 2 backup roles. I mean, think about this. 6 quarterbacks went in the first round last year. None of those teams are in need of a quarterback. And then you look at all the teams that made moves for veterans. Joe Flacco goes to Cleveland. Sam Darnold moves. Kirk Cousins is going to be on the move. Russ, Aaron, Geno, Daniel Jones. There's not that many quarterback needy teams. I mean, like, that's the recipe for finding a quarterback in the middle part to the latter part of the draft. We don't need a guy. We need pass rushers. We need linebackers. We need safeties. We need corners. We need running backs. We need receivers. We don't really need quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
So you add that, which is a very real factor. You can't debate or challenge that not that many teams needed first-round quarterbacks. And then you add on all the other things that didn't participate, the circus of Deion Sanders, the Deion saying there's certain cities my kid just won't go to. I mean, it's like I said, it's a very clear and effective recipe for tanking your draft stock.
Going to get to one more piece of audio real quick. Good to see 77 of you
Here for this
in the stream because Diesel shirtless. That's the only reason. The OG Tolo JB, T Swizzle, wrestling is awesome. Todd Richardson,
wrestling
DB.
sucks.
Yeah, I mean, a good crowd. And it is absolutely all because of Diesel being shirtless because of the bet that happened on Thursday. Here is Shedeur's reaction as he was chilling on the porch with some buddies talking about what happened.
I just feel like just people that are just being jailed for something they ain't do, bro.
What?
And like, there's no explaining. There's no talking about it, reasoning. Like, bro.
So
No, there is reasoning.
is he that naive? I mean, really, is he that naive, Diesel?
That right there is the voice of somebody who can't conceptualize why what happened to them just happened to him. There ain't no reason. Bro, like, I mean, come on. I'm Shedeur.
There's no reason.
I'm Shedeur. Yeah.
Again, he's so naive, his head's so big that he can't even understand why it happened.
That clip had all the nuance of a Dewey phone call to the fan upstate.
You know what it was like? It was like somebody who gets fired from a job, Diesel, or their girlfriend breaks up with them because of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 reasons.
Yeah.
And then they're like the victim. Well, why'd I get fired? Why'd I get
didn't do
broke?
anything.
I don't know. Oh my gosh, give me a break. So we're done talking about Shedeur for now. We'll get back into it, but we're done now.
When we come back, the Carolina Panthers shocked everybody and went wide receiver with their first-round pick. To talk about that and the other draft picks the Carolina Panthers have brought their way to Charlotte, we'll bring on David Newton of ESPN to break down the Carolina Panthers draft. That's next. Well, we didn't see that one coming. The Carolina Panthers, for the last 2 or 3 months, had given us the impression that they were going defense, defense, defense. You got to get somebody you can go after that quarterback. You got to get an edge rusher. And then they go psych and switch things up on us and take wide receiver Teteroa and McMillan as the number 1 pick, the 8th pick in the NFL draft. To break that down and all things Carolina Panthers draft here in 2025, we bring on David Newton of ESPN, covers the Carolina Panthers. David, just a simple question to start things. Are you satisfied with the Carolina Panthers draft haul?
Well, first of all, I'm really impressed at the way you pronounced the first name of their first-round pick. I got a few other ones down the list you can work on with me a little bit because I'm struggling with it. But, yeah, when you think of the logic, actually I think what they did was really smart. They realized that this is a receiver they really love, and they didn't think you would get him or any of the other ones they kind of liked in the second round. So they went ahead and took him then. And I always believe that there's somebody you love and you think it's going to help them, you go ahead and take them then. Don't worry about waiting 5, 10, 15, whatever picks away. And, you know, then they realized that really the talent level, and you heard this all along, once you get past the first 3 or 4 picks, the talent level, you know, for the next 15 or so were pretty even. So they felt like the break-off or the breakdown between, you know, what they were going to get as an edge rusher in the first round versus what they got in the second and third wasn't that big. And they really liked 2 of the guys they got, and they felt good about that. And so I think that actually worked out pretty good. I mean, I know they always say they got their guy. You never know whether to believe him or not, but the guys they got as edge rushers are 2 guys they really were high on and feel like they could develop. So I think overall I like the draft. I know it's getting mixed reviews, and mainly because they took a wide receiver, you know, when they have so many needs on defense. But I think it showed that they believe that Bryce Young more than anything, and they believe with a few more good pieces, particularly a number 1 receiver, that'll be as big of a help as getting a quality edge rusher.
David, you know, I went to bed Thursday night a little disappointed in the pick. I'm not a Carolina Panthers fan, but to Diesel's point, was also expecting defense. Woke up Friday morning and had come around to it a little bit. Can you go into detail a little bit on, from what you've heard from Dan Morgan and Dave Canales and others, what it was about McMillan that the Panthers liked so much?
Well, he's a possession receiver, a guy that makes a tough catch. I know there's some issues with separation. He's not elite speed, but he is a guy that catches a lot of balls and been productive. If you look at what he did the last couple of years, I mean, that production is just hard to deny. And they haven't had anybody other than Adam Thielen, who's about 93 now. They haven't had anybody to be really that productive in this offense, and they need some guys to build around young guys moving forward, so they'll have a long-term future with Bryce Young. They only got 2 with you know, McMillan and Xavier Legette, their first-round pick last year, to grow with Bryce Young. It also showed that they're really not convinced that Legette can be that number 1 receiver. They think he can be a good player, but I don't get the feeling they feel like he's going to be a great player at this point. So I think it spoke volumes on a lot of fronts right there. But mostly they believe in Young, and that with the right people, that this could be a really explosive offense. So they've added a lot of pieces there.
David, look into your crystal ball to, you know, just a little under a year from now as we're staring down the 2026 NFL draft. Does you know, bringing in now a true number 1 wide receiver in Ted McMillan kind of put the pressure on Bryce Young to perform, i.e. they've now got back-to-back first-round wide receivers. Adam Thielen is as good as he can be at his age, right? But at that point, you know, Bryce Young will have basically what he needs to go out and be a quality quarterback in the NFL. And if he still can't do it, does that then put the pressure on the Panthers to maybe consider moving on and go draft a quarterback next year?
I don't know if you can have more pressure than Bryce had last year, coming to last season after a horrific rookie season, and then to lose his job 2 games in, you know, because he was playing even worse, and then to come back and play the way he did, as well as he did the second half of the season. I don't think the pressure is really a factor for Bryce Young. I think he showed he could handle that last year, and I think he he's headed in the right direction right now. I think this shows that with the right players around him, like he had at Alabama, that Bryce can be as successful as anybody in the league. And I think that's more or less what this proved. You never know with the situations how it's going to turn out year to year. I mean, as well as they finished last year, they knew they needed some more pieces on this offense, but it was so overshadowed by how bad the defense was. Nobody really thought just how bad they could use some help. And I think this showed the commitment from Dan Morgan and Dave Canales to Bryce long term, that they really believe that he can be that guy.
I saw, David, a lot of mixed interaction on Twitter, on social media over the weekend, but a lot of really positive interaction from Panthers fans. And with us being right here in the upstate of South Carolina, only an hour or so from Charlotte, the Panther fans in our audience need something to get excited about. And I want to allow you, as David Newton of ESPN, to help our listeners tomorrow ask questions that you think Dan Morgan needs to be asked. We're having Dan Morgan on tomorrow at 4:20 on the show. If you were a fan out there of the Carolina Panthers listening, what do you think it would be that would be burning inside of you that you would want to know now that the dust has settled?
Well, I know how Dan's going to answer most questions. So the questions I really want to ask, I probably won't ask because I know what the answer is going to be and how vague it's going to be because Dan's smart that way. But if I was a fan, after 7 straight losing seasons, I'd simply want to know, did you do enough to help the defense this offseason that you could contend for the division title this year? And I think that's what people really want to know because, they don't want to know if Bryce Young's going to, put up huge numbers. Yeah, maybe they're a little bit on their mind, but they want to know if this team is ready to win now and not 2 or 3 years down the road. And I think because of all the losing they've had prior to this, that's what's going to be the burning thing. And in fact, we had to do one question for our post-draft look, and that was the question I had. Did he do enough? I don't know if it's enough to win right now. I think it's enough to at least make them if the NFC South is still as bad as it was last year, to at least make them a factor, the second half of the season and having a chance to make the playoffs. And I think that's what's on most mind. You can ask him, I guess, because he never really answered it after the draft, is what was wrong with Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia. But I think he's going to tell you what he told us, that they just had McMillan ranked ahead of him and felt like the talent at wide receiver was not going to be there in the second round. It would be there in the second round at edge rusher. So, but again, Dan's probably going to dance around most of that. I think he's going to be more optimistic, though, because last year, if you remember, he was asked about expectations, and Dan said, I don't really have any expectations for this team. And a lot of people took that to mean he didn't think they were going to do anything, and they really didn't. But I think there are expectations starting to build right now. Maybe you ask him that. What are the expectations now? Because last year you didn't really have any for this team.
David, what do you think the next 2 to 3 months look like for Dan? I mean, the draft is over. They've got the new guys coming in. It's time to, start coaching those guys up. But, what does he do now to complement the draft picks that are in-house? I assume at the moment that they don't really have the money to go out and pay anyone because they don't have that kind of draft capital. But in your mind, are there guys on this roster whose contracts they can restructure to maybe find a little bit of extra cash?
Well, the key for me is what happens with David Clowney. I mean, he was brought in last year to give them a pass rush and provide that edge rusher that they need out of this 3-4 defense. And he really didn't get that out of it. He had 5.5 sacks. I know if you go back in the early days when they ran the 3-4 defense, you had Lamar Lathan and Kevin Green, and they're like double-digit sacks and got nicknames and everything, and they're causing havoc. They got to find a way to pressure the quarterback. And I got a feeling just from the way Dan kind of gave a non-answer about whether David will be on the roster next year means they're looking to move on from him and they can get something out of a trade with a team that's contender, because a contender would be a good fit for David. And I'm not sure you could sell him that the Panthers are that right now. And they want to go young and aggressive. And I think the edge rushers they got gives them the opportunity along with what they had already picked up. So, again, I think that's the biggest thing. What happens to guys like that? And there'll be some other veterans on the roster but are going to be challenged by some of these younger players. I mean, I don't see him moving on from Adam Thielen, but I mean, it's going to be tougher for Adam to get playing time on this roster, because I think if Xavier steps up in his second year, along with what you got out of McMillan, he's got to be bringing him in to start, because you don't, take players at number 8 you don't plan on starting. So I think that's going to be an interesting mix in how all that works. So, Dan's still going to be busy, but I think he did a pretty nice job during the pre-draft and free agency in adding players that could really put him in a position to do what he did in the draft.
So kind of playing off of that answer a little bit, David, when you look at what the Panthers did in round 2 at 51 and then round 3 at 77 with Nick Scourton, edge out of A&M, and then Princely out of Mississippi. You can pronounce his last name. I'm not going to try. But
I was waiting for you to do that. Come on.
All right, here we go. Princely Umanamalian.
I think that's pretty close. I don't have to say it on camera, because it'll be like the time I got one Pablo Montoya confused to the point I was tongue-tied.
It's Uman Mielen. Uman Mielen. I had to spell it out phonetically, David, so that I wouldn't mess it up today.
Uman Mielen.
Mielen.
I like that. So are these two guys, David, in your mind, projects? I mean, you don't want to normally take projects in the second and third round after missing on a guy in the first or not choosing an edge in the first. How quick do you think these guys see the field?
Yeah, I mean, I did ask Dan that question specifically. I said, do you think these guys are ready where they could be starters in their first year? Because we'd already gotten the impression that they could move on from Xavier. So, and he actually said, he can't promise they could start, but he actually feels like they have some of the traits and characteristics that allow them to go out there and be a factor for at least a lot of playing time and make an impact right away. Because they're going to go with a rotation as the edge rushers. So I think between those two, and if Clowney stays Clowney, but if not, you got DJ Wanham, and then you got Patrick Jones that they drafted or picked up in free agency. They really like him. So I think they feel like right now they've got like 5 or 6 guys to pick from, and if they can, you can't play them all. So if you can get a draft pick or something for Xavier, then maybe that's a good thing for this team moving forward. But yeah, you're doing. I just don't want to pick up any more players that I have to figure out how to pronounce their name.
At D Newton, ESPN joins us here on the Fan Upstate. We got access to a lot of those interviews with the Panthers' various draft picks. Which of those players, whether it's McMillan, Scourton, Uman Mielen, Trevor Etienne, did any of those guys really impress you with their answers and their interview skills?
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell they had an edge or chip about them that they were want to improve themselves. Because I mean, look, none of them put up like outstanding sack numbers in college. So they're going to come in here in a system that encourages the edge rushers to have big numbers in sacks. So they're going to see some expectations out of those guys. But I think the guy who really intrigues me is their 5th round pick, Cam Jackson out of Florida. I mean, he's huge. I mean, 6'6", 328. I mean, the one thing they had, he's not a good pass rusher. He doesn't get to the quarterback. But, if you could put him at either, I look at 6'6", I think he'll probably line up for them, their, defensive end position there where it's normally a tackle, but it's just opposite of Derek Brown. If you get a guy like that can come and give you quality reps, he'll take up a lot of space and make it harder for teams to run on you. And that's something they got to fix right away. Derek Brown's going to help immediately. Having the guys they had, they brought back and signed are going to help. But this guy, I think if you can get him to be just sort of space eater, it's going to allow these outside guys on the edge to really make some plays. I'm kind of intrigued to see him play.
We talked about this, David, about a month ago when we had you on because the possibility was surfacing, but you tweeted out 18 hours ago, the news broke yesterday, that the Panthers have reached a 1-year deal with veteran receiver Hunter Renfrow. Do you have any idea, with Hunter being a Clemson guy and us being right here in the upstate, any idea what the Panthers' plan for Hunter is?
Well, I think a lot of it, I haven't talked to Hunter, so I don't know what exactly happened with that. I haven't talked to Morgan or Canales, but I mean, he's a solid possession guy. He's a solid, team guy, and that influence. He's going to bring some of that influence that Adam Thielen brought to the receiver room. So I don't know exactly. I know his numbers dropped significantly after he was put on injured reserve a few years ago for a concussion. Don't know how much that played a role in the drop-off and what he was doing, but I feel like that if for him to want to come back, I think that's as big a question as anything. Why does Hunter Renfrow want to come back? Does he believe that he's kind of at that point where he could be a contributor again? Obviously, the Panthers think he could be because they signed him. So I think that he's another guy, possession receiver, and they've just got a lot more targets. You got to create competition, as Dan keeps saying, and I think that's just another step in that process.
David, what should happen to Jax Ulbrich, the son of Jeff Ulbrich, the Atlanta Falcons DC, who got a hold of Shedeur Sanders' private phone number, prank called him. We saw it happen multiple times through the draft this year, and it's happened in the past. Unfortunately, it's an all too common occurrence. It seems really cruel to mess with a young man who's worked his butt off to get to that point, only to screw with their head. So should anything be done about this? I know the Falcons and the NFL have basically sat on their hands so far.
I guess you could put him in timeout. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it was the coach, I know what would happen. But I really, it was just a huge, as he said, I think in his message, was a huge mistake. And kids make big mistakes in their life when they're young like that. So it shouldn't have happened. I don't know how he got the number. They've got to figure all that out and see what's going to happen moving forward. But again, if it was a dad, it's an easy thing. If it's the son, I don't know. That's tough.
David, before we let you go, 6 hours ago at D Newton ESPN, you tweeted out some more news with a guy that we also covered right here in South Carolina, a guy that has a lot of upside in my mind out of the Gamecocks, Bam Martin-Scott, a signing recently with the Panthers. Do you feel like this one has some traction or has enough traction in your mind to actually pan out to be something other than just one of those post-draft signings that never go anywhere?
No, you never know with these guys. I mean, from Clemson a few years ago, the young linebacker Bower, and he came in and I thought just because of the way he played in college and the toughness and the everything about him seemed to fit, what they were looking for, but also he just didn't cut it. Size hurt him and just wasn't able to make it, so he didn't hang around. Some of these stories you never know. Those are some of the fun stories on who comes out of that undrafted group and makes it and who doesn't. Bam seems like he's definitely got the name for it. So if he can come out and show a little Bam on the practice field, then he's got a chance. I mean, those guys have to work their butt off even harder than the other guys just to have a chance to make the roster. And again, I love those stories because you gotta hope some of those guys make it, because that's exactly what they are. They're the guys that are down there having to really dig hard to make it. But I'm going to go back though. I'm amazed at how many Gamecocks the Panthers have had through their roster here in the last few years, because I covered some bad South Carolina teams back in the Sparky Woods and Brad Scott era, and nobody drafted those players. But now the fact that these guys are getting drafted and getting drafted highly, I mean, like Xavier Legette, like a Jaravian Clowney, and the fact that they're getting undrafted guys coming in here with a promise of maybe making the league, I think that says a lot more for South Carolina than anything else.
David, as always, we appreciate you, and be safe driving, and we'll do it again soon, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Thanks, David.
David Newton, ESPN.com. You heard him right here on the Fan Upstate. Really good interview today, man. He's always good, but it was really, really good today. Always appreciate David for taking time to join us right here on the Fan Upstate Diesel. When we come back, let's step back and take a broad look at this entire NFL draft. For those of you watching on the stream, if you just tuned in and are wondering why Diesel's shirtless, it's a great question to those 128 watching on the stream. We'll answer that. And also we'll answer on the other side, Diesel, who do we think had the absolute best draft? That's next. Well, if you did not tune in to Thursday's show, as I was over in Spartanburg at Fifth Third Park, that was the last time I was on. I was off Friday. If you didn't tune in Thursday, you wouldn't know why Diesel is sitting here in studio shirtless. That's your fault for not turning it on and leaving.
Why do you keep pointing the camera downwards at me, Cole? Stop reaching over and touching my camera.
Keep your hands off.
Yes.
He says. But we had a bet on Thursday in terms of the first two selections of each position group, and Diesel paid up nicely. The Twitter headline on my tweet live stream, I'm sure, has gotten a few of you interested. Even though you don't want to admit it, it's gotten you in here, and here you are.
The word for that, Cole, is titillating.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you can't break that word in half on the radio. That's an FCC violation.
Okay.
But, we were predicting who would go 1 and 2 in each position group, and I think we both did fairly well. I mean, both of us
I think it was 22-18.
Yeah, it was really close. And look, we were let's see, I'm trying to see. We were both correct about Cam Ward. We were both way off about Shedeur Sanders. Let's see, you were right about Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren being the first and second tight ends. I had Colston Loveland going second. I had them flip-flopped, so we had them correct. I was right about, we were both right about Ashton Genty going as the number 1 running back. I was right about Amarian Hampton from North Carolina. You were wrong about Travion Henderson. But we can go down this list. There's a lot to go on. But all in all, I think we both did really well.
Not bad at all. Diesel, I am here to tell you in the Tolos before we run to a break. I'm here to tell you. I know in the next segment we're going to take a broad look at all of the biggest stories in the draft. But I think the New England Patriots, who a season ago had Gerard Mayo as their head coach, who didn't know who their quarterback was going to be, who had just lost their franchise coach a couple of years before that, and they were, let's be honest, kind of in a tough spot. I don't know if you would consider it dire straits or not, Diesel, but they were not going in the right direction. I'm talking about the New England Patriots. I think the New England Patriots had the best draft this past weekend. You have a quarterback in Drake May who has a fighting chance in the NFL. Is he going to be great? We don't know. But you go out and get offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU, who's just a dog in the first round. You go get Travion Henderson. I don't know how he was still there in the second round. Third round, Kyle Williams. Then you get Jared Wilson. I know, look, he'll be a rookie. How many snaps? I just love what New England did. You've got to help May. You've got to get him protection. Not only did you get him protection, Diesel, you gave him run support. You gave him receivers, threats on the outside. I think New England had the best draft out of anybody this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they addressed every single need that they had. They were able to get a lot of great value, get guys farther down the list than anybody would have thought. Cardinals are looked at as having had a really good draft. The Giants had a good draft. And, Cole, your Dallas Cowboys.
I like what they did.
People like what the Dallas Cowboys did in this draft as well. When we come back, Cole, the biggest story that no one is talking about from this year's NFL draft, it's going to blow your mind. And as I was perusing, listening to a lot of other big talking heads talk about the NFL draft, one crazy rule change that Danny Cannell wants to implement for the NFL. That's next. Quinn Ewers fell from a former 5-star rated quarterback to a future 5-star rated Uber driver in this year's NFL draft. How does that happen? A guy who is the bee's knees, the cat's meow, the only guy anyone was talking about a few years ago. How does he go in the 7th round? I mean, I understand.
They even have 7 rounds?
Believe it or not, that's the last one. That's the 7th and final round. From the, not consensus, but pretty close to consensus, best high school prospect the year that he entered into college football.
Yeah.
To the last quarterback taken in the 2025 NFL draft. Just an unbelievable fall. And I get it. I get that he had the shoulder injury that kind of hampered him a little bit this year, but he still took his team to the playoff, and you still got an awful lot of time to get him in game shape before you actually have to put him on the field, whether it's this year or next year or wherever. That one blows me away, Cole, and Quinn Ewers may be seen as the biggest drop-off that I can think of in recent history. Yeah, we're talking about Shedeur to start the show today, but hey, Quinn Ewers fell a lot farther.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask this question to you just to put things in perspective, Diesel. You and I spent the entire football season highlighting quarterbacks like Quinn Ewers. Mm-hmm. What if I told you, let's just go October, midway through the season, right? If I'd told you on October the 10th, whatever day that was, that Tyler Shuck would go not only way ahead of Quinn Ewers, but he would go in one of the early rounds, you would have said
more like, what the?
Right, that rhymes with Shuck.
Yeah.
Cluck.
Why did that happen?
Now, I mean, I agree with you. It's shocking. He was good in college, but what does that say? Here's where I go. Here's where my mind goes when you ask that question. Does that say more about him, Quinn Ewers, or does that say more about this draft class as a whole when you look at the quarterback position?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. Quinn had a tremendous amount of talent. Maybe he goes down as one of those in the vein of Tim Tebow kind of guys, like great in college, never amounted to much in the NFL. And who knows? I mean, Quinn Ewers will rehab. Quinn Ewers will compete. We'll see if Quinn Ewers even makes the team. But
sure,
it's a fascinating story about a guy like that who, let's be real, also came into his position both at Ohio State and then his transfer to Texas with all of that same media hype and circus around him that a guy like Shedeur had. Not quite to the level with a famous father, but he was still followed by camera crews basically from the moment he stepped on campus.
Does this send the message that maybe he should have stayed in college one more year?
So I think this is what Quinn wanted, because all of the conversations that I've read from Quinn, he wanted to go out a Texas Longhorn. He didn't want to.
I get that.
He didn't want to go somewhere else. He didn't want to go in the portal. He didn't want to play within the roster for a year. You know, could he have improved his draft stock? Yeah, he could have, but he could have also tanked his draft stock. He could have continued to exacerbate that shoulder injury and never made the NFL at all, right? Maybe he was ready to be done with college. Maybe he was ready to start this journey in the NFL. It's you just never know. If you looked at it with hindsight 2020, if you had told him, hey, you're going to be a 7th round draft pick, he probably would have said, okay, yeah, I'll go to, and I'm just making up stories here, I'll go to Tennessee, or I'll go to Wisconsin, or I'll go here, I'll go there, I'll make $3 million and set myself up for the next decade of my life. But he would rather have retired a Longhorn. The crazy thing is he got pushed out.
Yeah.
He got pushed out for a guy that's never played a down of college football as a starter. And that's how his career ended.
But you know what, man? Like, I don't hate the destination. I don't hate where he ended up, because let's
he's
call
in a good
it,
spot.
Let's call it like it is, Diesel. The quarterback in Miami doesn't stay healthy, right?
Yeah.
His head hits the ground way too much, and he can't stay on the field. So, look, you're talking about Quinn Ewers going into a situation in Miami where he's familiar, Diesel, with the concepts. Mm-hmm. Head coach Steve Sarkisian, who was his coach at Texas, studied the Dolphins' offense. and assigned Quinn Ewers many of the same pre-snap motion, ball handling responsibilities that Tua has in Miami. He was asked to work with the same game concepts that Tua does. Look, I know his arm talent is a question, right? And he's not the same quarterback that Tua is when Tua's on his game. But Diesel, it's not a bad spot for a guy who can give that team some stability at the backup quarterback position. I kind of like it.
He's got to beat out Zach Wilson to be the backup quarterback. That's it. That's it. You know, look, could Quinn Ewers end up being in a similar situation to the quarterback situation down at New Orleans, where we thought that Spencer Rattler coming out of South Carolina was a clear-cut number 2? Could he be that guy that never ultimately gets to see the field? Because maybe this is the year that Tua doesn't get hurt, and next year the Dolphins say, okay, we got to go draft a quarterback. Yeah. I don't know. We can't tell. We can't know what the future is going to hold. But, man, what a fascinating story. And the exact inverse of that is the guy that went number 1 overall, who only had one FCS offer to go into college. Cam Ward started at Incarnate Word. And if we hadn't talked about Cam Ward over the past couple of months and mentioned Incarnate Word, most of you probably wouldn't have a clue what state Incarnate Word is in.
No,
it's in Texas,
I couldn't.
By the way,
okay, I was going to say, remind me for those that don't know.
He went from a nobody, Incarnate Word, to Washington State, to Miami, to the number 1 pick. So those are the stories that give me, just enough pause to think about the transfer portal and say, wouldn't it have been a shame if a guy with the talent of a Cam Ward never got the opportunity to move up, to move on, to advance, to train with better coaches, and he had played out his college career at Incarnate Word because they were the ones who gave him the opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I still wish these guys would stay put and stick it out, but it would have been a travesty that we would have never known about for Cam Ward to not make the NFL and not do what he did.
And look, I think from the reaction I've seen online over the weekend from Tennessee fans, I think they're as excited. And I know we give Matt Kraft a lot of crap about Cam Ward in Miami, but
it's so cool to see a Washington State quarterback get drafted number 1 overall. That's a heartwarming tale.
Oh, that's going to upset him. I do think, Diesel, that most of the Tennessee fan base feels or has a feeling that they have not had in a long time because they just haven't had look, they've had decent quarterbacks. They've had good quarterbacks. Tennessee hasn't had a quarterback electric. Tennessee hasn't had a quarterback that can make plays, that's a playmaker. And I think for the most part, this fan base is excited and thrilled just to see what this guy can do. Now, the caveat is he's going to be asked to do it quickly. There's no, sitting behind Aaron Rodgers here for Cam Ward. He's going to be asked to come in and produce very quickly. I think he can. I absolutely think he can, as long as Tennessee continues to give him support around them. They haven't had the best offensive line in past years, but I don't hate it whatsoever. I like it a lot. In fact, I think Tennessee Titan fans should be thrilled.
Yeah, I think we lost Marcus on the phone lines. Marcus, call back in, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Because I was listening to Dusty and Danny this morning, kind of breaking down the NFL draft, and I always love to get a lot of different perspectives and see what a lot of different people are trying to say. But Danny Cannell, who is known for making outlandish points and making outlandish takes,
it's good at that.
Had a take this morning, Cole, that just makes me weep for the future of college football even more if this ever came to fruition. Danny's idea for a rule change is that if you get drafted and you don't like where you got drafted, you can just pull your name right back out of the NFL and go back to college, make some more money. Oh, I don't like the fact that I was drafted in the 7th round, Quinn Ewers. Maybe I did make a mistake. Maybe I would like to go back to college and go make $3 million and play somewhere. That is just another terrible idea in a long string of terrible ideas that are eroding away the fabric of college football.
And that'll never, ever, 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 ever happen.
No.
Because it's the stupidest thing he's ever seen.
Well, number one,
I don't know about that. I don't know if it's the stupidest thing. Maybe it's
a lot of stupid things.
It's tough. look, we're allowing Diesel people to do things in life. We're allowing people to make decisions where actions don't have consequences. That's all it is. You chose to go into the draft, so whoever picks you, you get on the freaking plane, you take the millions, and you get over it.
That's
right?
a life lesson that you have to learn for yourself, that not everything is going to go exactly the way that you wanted it to go. Now, we just talked about him playing in Miami could be a blessing in disguise because Tua could get hurt. And again, their backup quarterback is Zach Wilson. Quinn Ewers is better than Zach Wilson today.
He beat him already.
Yeah.
The rumor has it he's already beat him out at the facility.
Airport.
Yeah, at the airport. Yeah.
I mean, look, to his point though, if you don't like where you're picked, you just pull your name out. You go back into college to hopefully better your position. Well, what if you don't? What if you don't better your position? What if you're drafted in the 5th round, you don't like it, you go back to college, you stink it up, now you're drafted in the 7th round, or you're an undrafted free agent? Look, we're giving these kids every single opportunity to stay in college longer and longer and longer than they ever have. They got red shirts. They got medical red shirts. They got gray shirts.
Still a thing.
They got waivers. If you played at a JUCO, guess what? That doesn't count. You can go back and play another year. Medical exemptions. At what point, Cole, do we get to where we have to say there needs to be a tweener league between high school and college because there's this log jam of talent? Like, these high school kids can't get on to rosters because they're also shrinking the rosters down to 105 guys. So now if we're giving guys more and more and more and more chances to stay in college longer because they have experience, they have star power, they have marketability, at what point are college or high school kids not even given opportunities to go play college football because there's no roster spots open for them? It feels like you get to the point where you got to say, okay, 40% of your roster or 30%, whatever number you want to make up, has to be 1 year removed from high school.
I did want to bring up we talked about it to lead the show with Shedeur Diesel, but the point that we didn't hit on with what happened in Cleveland, when you take this broad step back and look at what happened in the NFL draft, from a Cleveland Browns perspective, they're trying to get out of Deshaun's contract. They don't have a quarterback situation figured out. They take Dylan Gabriel early in the draft.
Can Travis Hunter play quarterback too?
Maybe. And then the Browns, after they take Dylan Gabriel later on in round 145, Shedeur Sanders gets picked. I don't know what the Browns' plan is here. It is, look, you've got a problem on your hand and on your hands. In my mind, if you're the Cleveland Browns, I know you say Cole, Cleveland's always got it's Cleveland, right? But look, like, is this not the most Cleveland thing ever? You go get Dylan Gabriel, you go get Shedeur. Now wait till OTAs, wait till mini camps, wait till training camp when you've got quarterback 1, quarterback 2, quarterback 3, and Shedeur Sanders is listed as the 3rd quarterback on the roster. I'm not saying Dylan Gabriel can't win the job and everything be flowers and sunshine. I just see this as a disaster waiting to happen. Who's shocked that that's the conversation around what Cleveland did? But I don't think this ends well with what they did in the draft. I think it was a terrible draft for the Cleveland Browns. I
mean, it would have made more sense for the Carolina Panthers to draft Shedeur Sanders because he plays a similar style of football to Bryce Young, right? He plays a stand in the pocket and throw, but also move and use your legs. And Andy Dalton is 80 years old. He's not going to be around for long. So maybe you had Shedeur Sanders there as a backup because he can play a similar style of football to Bryce Young. That would have made more sense. What they're doing in Cleveland is just absolutely. It feels like, like I remember a lot of people were saying early on in the mock process that Shedeur Sanders could go number 2 to the Browns. Yeah. And so maybe they just got down to the end of their board and they said, I don't know, Shedeur used to be on our board. Let's take Shedeur.
It's head scratching. And I do want to I want to say that I think Shedeur Sanders can play. I don't think I said that in the first segment. I do want to say that. I think he can play. He's talented. And look, the other aspect of it is Kevin Stefanski is a brilliant offensive mind. He really is. He's looked at across the NFL as one of the best offensive minds out there. So I would say, Diesel, if they want things to work out, maybe Dillon Gabriel doesn't impress and Shedeur does slide up and become the guy. I just don't see that happening, but I know that Kevin Stefanski probably could get something out of Shedeur Sanders.
So here's audio of Browns GM Andrew Berry asked why he drafted Shedeur Sanders where and when he did.
Felt like he was a good, solid prospect at the most important position. We felt like it got to a point where he was probably mispriced, relative to the draft.
You don't say.
Really the acquisition cost was pretty light, and it's a guy that we think can outproduce his draft slot. So I wouldn't say it's any more than that. Mary Kay, I think obviously Shedeur has kind of grown up in the spotlight. But, our expectation is for him to come in here and work and compete. Nothing's been promised. Nothing will be given. So I may, hesitate to characterize it as a blockbuster. That's not necessarily how we thought of the transaction. But we are excited to work with him.
Oh,
God.
Boy.
If I'm Shedeur, the first time Dion opens his mouth, say, I don't like what they're doing with my son up there, I'd get on the phone and say, Dad, shut up.
You got to quit.
Dad, keep my name out your mouth.
What's interesting, Diesel, about this, and I think he said the right things there. It wasn't a blockbuster pick or selection because it wasn't the 5th round. But what we have to remember is 5th round guys get cut a lot. Like a lot. 5th rounders don't make NFL rosters. They miss NFL rosters more than they make it. So when you look at Shedeur, yeah, he has the name. We know who his dad is. We know the storyline Diesel is going to continue to circle around him and what he's doing with Dillon Gabriel also on the roster. But the reality is if they view him as nothing more than a 5th round pick, he may not be on the roster a year from today. He may not be.
Yeah, he may go from, legendary to sitting on his couch.
Well, you know what? Look, I'm not saying it's right. But here's his chance. If he wants to prove everybody wrong and show everybody why they were stupid, right, for not picking him, he has a chance to go beat out the quarterbacks on the roster, go beat out Dillon Gabriel. You both were coming in with pretty much the same playing field, right? He doesn't have a leg up on you. You don't have a leg up on him. Yeah. Go beat him out. Go win.
Yeah.
Go win the job.
Go earn the number 3 spot. And then when Deshaun Watson finally gets cut by the Browns, and he will eventually, or traded, then you'll have a shot at being the quarterback of this team.
A ton of audio from the weekend, general managers, coaches, players, and when I say a ton, I mean a ton. We're going to get to that and the audio blitz in the very next segment. Also want to remind you, Tolos, if you just tuned in, we mentioned it when we had David Newton on. But tomorrow, 4:20, right here on Wire to Wire, the general manager of the Carolina Panthers, Dan Morgan, joins the show. And Panther fans out there, we want to hear from you in the next 24 hours. If you have a question you want to ask your GM, shoot us a text. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line 844-FAN-PHONE. A audio blitz from the NFL Draft weekend is next. don't know that there has ever been more audio from the world of sports, from the NFL draft, than this audio blitz you're about to hear. But that's exactly what we're bringing to you. We're bringing you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 19, 20. I don't know if it's that many, but a lot of audio, Diesel, to listen to and react to. But before we get into that, why on earth, for those that just tuned into the stream, do you have your shirt off?
Because I lost a bet. And I always pay up my bets. Okay,
Respect.
we did a challenge on Thursday. Who could pick the first and second picks at each position group more accurately? You won the bet. I have to go shirtless for the day.
You paid the bet.
That's just how it goes. Now, see, what I don't appreciate though, Cole, is that we have Tom in Somerville slut shaming me on Twitter right now by screenshotting our video and making shirtless me his profile photo.
That just happened?
I don't appreciate that. But what I do appreciate is showing off these deltoid muscles on the stream, man. You can't look at this. This is all anterior deltoid. The lateral deltoid is popping. You can't see the posterior deltoid from the video stream. But I mean, like, shoulder muscle is there, my friend. You can't argue that.
I'm not arguing. I'm just now seeing Tom in Somerville, who's a Tolo. I'm just now seeing his new. Wow, that is great. Like, that is really. What do they say? Flattery is the best form of, imitation is the best form of flattery, right?
Well, he'd have to hit the gym for a while if he wants to imitate this.
I like it. But Diesel paying up on his bets. It's time to blitz you, Tolos, with some of the audio from the NFL draft. We start with Will Campbell.
What's behind that smile?
Man, just all the hard work.
Congratulations.
It's tearing up for those that haven't seen it.
What kind of tone are you going to set on this offensive line?
I'm going to fight and die to protect them with everything I got.
I mean, how does that not get you fired?
You gotta love that guy.
Oh my God.
I had his audio last week, Cole. I think it was from early in the draft process where he was asked, what it was like when he first started playing offensive line at LSU. And he said, there's guys on the other side of that line from you every single down who are trying to get paid. They're trying to come after you. You let one of those guys through the line to get it to the quarterback one time a game, you're going to be working at Amazon.
Here is Will Campbell on how he will adapt to the weather in New England.
Which has a whole different sequence of flavor. What are you going to miss most about Louisiana?
I'm going to adapt. I'm going to bring my Tony Sasheries in my backpack wherever I go. I'm going to have it just in case. But when I went up there on the 30 visit, I had some of the stuff. It wasn't bad, but I'm going to take my Tonys with me.
Well, I live in Connecticut. It's freaking cold. Are you prepared to play in that kind of weather?
I'm a hunter, so, I'm used to the cold. I fell in the water when it's like 8 degrees. So, I think I'll be fine. And if not, I'll go buy a jacket.
If not, I'll go buy a jacket.
So people up north think that it's 90 degrees all year long in the South.
I'll go buy a jacket. I mean, what a great answer. Diesel, Giants general manager on drafting Jackson Dart in the first round.
Jackson fired up to get him. We went through an extensive quarterback process. It started as far back as last May in terms of evaluating the quarterbacks, and Dave's and I have been through this quite a few times. And at the end of the day, we're fired up to have Jackson Dart as part of the organization, and look forward to working with him.
Did that one surprise you? Giants taking Dart?
I mean, just because of the tremendous weight of all of the pre-draft conversation of here's what's going to happen. We know that Cam's going to go 2.
Yeah.
We know that Shedeur's going to go 1 and Shedeur's going to go 2 and Dart's going to go 3. And it may be a long time after that before other quarterbacks are drafted. It just goes to show, don't buy into everything that you hear. These people who are making these predictions, who are putting together their mock drafts, most of the time, Cole, they're guessing. They're guessing. They're making suppositions based on what they think these teams need, but they don't know what these teams need. They don't know what these teams value. They're getting fed information. Some of it's real. Some of it's BS. Some of it changes before the draft happens. Maybe somebody just falls in love and wows the coaching staff through the process. And as they sit and reevaluate, they say, maybe that guy. Oh, and then there's picks in front of you that you can't control. So maybe the guy that you want to go somewhere else and you have to change and rethink quickly. It doesn't shock me that he was taken as highly as he is. He was just somehow placed in this slot, this category of being a third-tier quarterback, the third best quarterback in this draft. And it's not the way it went down.
So now the Giants, Diesel, have Jackson Dart, they have Russell Wilson, and they have Jameis Winston. What an intriguing quarterback room. Here's what Brian Daboll said about that.
I'd say that'll play out. Russ will be our starter, and that's how it'll be once we get started here in the spring. And, look, the process of developing a quarterback is just that. So we're going to do everything we can to develop him and bring him along. And, we have some good quarterbacks in the room relative to play time, experience, some, medals on the wall, if you will, that have done a great job here these first 4 days. It's really early, phase one, but the two of those guys that we've added have added a lot of value already to the room in terms of leadership.
So Russell Wilson has already been announced in April that he's going to be the starter. That's okay. I don't know that I would have done that if I were Brian Daboll. I get it. Maybe a little bold, right? I mean, well, let's see.
But notice he didn't say he's the season-long starter.
Right, yeah.
He's the starter to start the season.
Yeah.
That's really all
Maybe
that matters.
for one snap. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Travis.
That's on the other side of the river.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Travis Hunter, Diesel, let the Jags know very quickly on the phones Thursday night that they made the right decision.
Travis, this is James Gladstone with the Jacksonville Jaguars. How you doing?
How you doing, Coach?
You know what? Go ahead and take a moment to soak this one in. We're trading up in the draft. We're moving from pick 5 to pick 2, and we're doing it because you're the one we've been hunting up.
Yes, sir. That's the best decision.
I love it. Love the confidence, right? Love the confidence. Look, I do think it's really interesting what Jacksonville did. Moving up to the very top, almost the very top, Diesel of the draft. Go get a guy in Travis Hunter. They said, look, he's going to play both ways. And I think going into this season, that's one of the storylines, maybe not the number one, but boy, that's got to be at the top of the storyline book of what to watch for this 2025 season.
I just hope that as this is playing out, whether it's this season, next season, hopefully for the next 10 seasons, we appreciate what we're seeing while we're seeing it, right? It's like watching Shohei Ohtani do what he does, being an elite home run hitter and an elite pitcher at the same time. It just doesn't happen. So to have a guy that if he can stay healthy, and that's going to be the hardest thing, right? He's taking he's taking a lot of NFL reps on both sides of the ball. He's going to be getting hit by bigger and bigger dudes than he's ever been hit by. So if he can stay healthy and if he can figure out that balance, whatever it may be, if it's 50-50, if it's 70-30, it doesn't matter, right? Just stay healthy, and we could be talking about an all-time great.
Going to go back to Brian Daboll real quick. Texter says, will you guys ask Dan Morgan if Bryce Young doesn't have a breakout year, will he give Lenora Sellers a good hard look? Interesting. Buckeye Brian says, why does Diesel keep pronouncing Shedeur's name like that? How is he pronouncing it? How are you saying it?
Shedeur? Is it Shedeur?
Well, I don't know.
Is it Shedeur?
I thought it was my accent. I say Shedeur, but I thought that was my southern drawl. So Buckeye
Brian, how am I saying it wrong?
We're saying it pretty close.
Call into the show, Buckeye
how
Brian.
How should you say it?
Give it. You can't spell it out phonetically because we're not going to spell it or say it the exact way that you hear it in your head.
You and I are the last two letters. I'm saying Shedeur. Right. But again, I don't know that I'm saying it the right way.
So here is while we're talking about it, this is an audio clip just so we can get the experts, the national guys, hear how they say it. Here's Rich Eisen, Joel Klatt, Daniel Jeremiah, and co. talking about
I just see a league, though, that goes ahead and takes people with red flags like it's an amusement park, about things that you wouldn't want to touch somebody with a 10-foot pole, but we'll take that person because they're really talented.
Well,
and in this case, what?
Let me
because
push
he
back
interviewed
on that.
badly because
Well, let me
he
push back.
didn't Okay, go for it.
I would just
This
say
is Joel
quarterback
Klatt.
is different. Once you get past the point where you're drafting for a starter and you're drafting for a backup, now that red flag or issue becomes a story and a narrative. And now the camera and the microphone is in the backup quarterback's locker. No organization in football wants the microphone and camera in the backup quarterback's locker.
But that's also maybe part and parcel of a head coach not being able to control the narrative. I mean, Bill Belichick would put velvet ropes around any cameras, anything, and then that would be completely removed.
Okay, well, that's fun. They didn't even say his name once in the first 60 seconds of that
his
clip.
name,
Thanks a
guys.
lot, Rich Eisen.
Come on. Here was Brian Daboll, Diesel, on the reports that the meeting with Shedeur didn't go well. Maybe.
There was a report from Todd McShay that specifically you and him had a meeting that did not go very well. Anything you want to clear up on that or deny or comment on?
Yeah, I'd say we had good meetings with all the guys that came in here on 30 visits. Quarterback meetings were productive, and we're happy with Jackson.
So not buying it. He's not feeding the fire, I guess, right? In terms of when he's asked about Shedeur and maybe the storyline that he didn't have a good meeting. Diesel, we had David Newton on the show earlier today. He was awesome, as he always is. But he asked a question that the rookie. This one's good. The rookie, the new guy, the Panthers, Tetaroa McMillan from Arizona did not want to answer.
ESPN.com. What separates you from any other receiver they have on this team?
I'm not going to.
Was that an unfair question?
No, I mean, look, I don't think David's goal there was to get Tetaroa to say, I'm better than other receivers on this team. I think he was trying to get him to maybe shine some light on what he thinks his skill set is different from Xavier Legette, from Adam Thielen, from the other wide receivers on this team. I don't think that it was meant to be a gotcha question. Now, I will say that Tetaroa McMillan, really smart guy, to not answer that question. To not,
it was smart.
I mean, you walk into a locker room as a rookie, they're going to say, "Hey, I heard what you said about me, meat. Like, let's go."
Yeah,
I'm faster than you. What if Xavier Legette's trying to challenge him to a 50-yard go route
or
speed wise? And well, he's not going to win that one. But no, I mean, like you don't want to provide any fodder. You don't want to give these guys any bullets. I mean, we're all on the same team here.
Yeah, I think he gave the right answer. I like this answer there, Diesel. Here was, this one's interesting. Bill Belichick did an interview with CBS. Diesel, his girlfriend Jordan Hudson. Well, guess what? She was sitting on the side. Have you heard this yet with Jordan Hudson?
I have not.
She shut a question down during the interview.
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No.
So she interjects from the side of the room to not allow Bill to answer Diesel how they met.
Bill, blink twice if you're being kidnapped. It's like, come on. What? I mean, look, do they want to rehash this story again and again and again? No, they don't.
It's weird, though,
and
right?
she doesn't, maybe she's just like, let's keep this football. But at the same time, Bill is a grown-ass man. He can speak for himself.
He's old. He's a grandpa, right?
This does reek of she's in control.
Wearing the pants.
Yeah.
We got one more for you. Tyler Booker, who I was excited about, my Cowboys pick from Alabama. Diesel was on with Micah Parsons on his podcast and getting Micah fired up.
Up, be like, man, I can't wait to play this football game today. They listen to their hype music. They take all the pre-workout. They get so excited to play football.
until they come across Tyler Booker. And then when I'm going after you, quarter after quarter, play after play, series after series, and I start to see that love leave their eyes, like that's what makes me love the game. Like I just really love.
So how about that? I mean, Tyler Booker, man, immediately he was on the podcast with Micah Parsons. So did you hear his answer? It was pretty he was pretty fired up. And he gave an answer as to, people who get ready for football games, what happens to them when they meet Tyler Booker. Did you play it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was confused about what happened here.
So at the very end, the yelling is Micah hyped up, but here's Tyler's answer.
Wake up, be like, man, I can't wait to play this football game today. They listen to their hype music. They take all the pre-workout. They get so excited to play football until they come across Tyler Booker. And then when
So basically he's saying to that point, everybody's excited to play football until they come across Tyler Booker. This is a pretty bold statement from a rookie, who's never played in the NFL.
Until they come across Tyler Booker. And then when I'm going after you, quarter after quarter, play after play, series after series, and I start to see that love leave their eyes, like that's what makes me love the game. Like
that's what makes him love the game. He's just he's making a bold statement.
I was confused about was Micah Parsons yelling in the background.
Yeah.
Was he yelling because he liked the answer so much?
He liked the answer.
Oh,
he liked it. He liked the answer.
I was a little confused.
Tyler Booker from Alabama.
Cole, let's get to one more piece of audio here. Let's kill that.
Okay, go ahead.
I do want to play this. This is enhanced audio, okay? Brought everything up levels-wise to make it as even as possible. Here is the prank call audio of Jax Ulbrich prank calling Shedeur Sanders, telling him that he was going to be drafted by the Saints.
Hey, is this Shedeur? Hey, this is Mickey Loomis here, the GM of the New Orleans Saints.
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man. We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
It's going to be legendary.
Hey, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's so cruel. Oh.
That's rough, man.
That's a truly terrible thing to do to somebody. That the guy that was speaking, the person that was speaking, claiming to be the GM of the Saints, that was not Jax Ulbrich. That was his frat bro or whatever. And Jax Ulbrich though was in the shot. And he's also listed on the Ole Miss football roster.
Ooh,
Cole. So
not good. Not a good look.
I wonder if Lane is going to do anything about this.
The only thing I would say is, like, for everybody making this into this huge deal about this prank call, like, I get it. It's wrong. It shouldn't happen. But where were you all when Brock Purdy got prank called a couple of years ago? Where were you then? That's my question.
When we come back, Cole, on the other side of the break, let's see what else is happening out in the sports world. Our Daily Wires are next. Cole, does doing the whole show shirtless make me the Bert Kreischer of sports talk radio?
It could be.
I never wanted that.
Yeah.
I never wanted that
But
smoke.
look,
in my life. But
you
here we are.
lived up to your bet. Hats off to you.
Yeah. There are some hosts on this station, both past and present, who don't pay up on their bets.
That's not fun.
And yeah, you can't make a bet if you ain't willing to pay
That's
up.
right.
Cole, what else is happening in the sports world? We get to
Nothing.
it here in this segment, and it's called Our Daily Wires. Here's the buzz. Clemson baseball had an awful weekend in Raleigh, North Carolina. They were swept by the number 25 NC State Wolfpack. Run ruled on Thursday, 14-4. Lost 8-3 on Friday, and then lost 4-1 on Saturday. Clemson falls to 13-8 in ACC play. Good thing they have a really good out-of-conference slate and record, because 13-8 doesn't seem like the number 2 team in the country, does it?
Well, no, not when you have 3 losses, from the same team that you didn't expect. NC State is a good team, but, if that record were, let's call it 15-6, as it should have been if Clemson were to take 2 of 3, which I thought they would, it'd be a lot different story. But no, you lose 3 in a row. That doesn't look good.
Yep. South Carolina baseball had a rough weekend as well. They lost 2 of 3 in Lexington, Kentucky. South Carolina 5-16 in SEC play. Since April 17th, the Atlanta Braves are 7-2. They took 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks this weekend, are now 12-15 on the season, 6.5 games back out of first place in the division. Are you ready to eat some crow yet?
No, there's no crow to be ate, because like I said when I said it.
Not even warming up the grill?
No, because like I said, told Madcraft many times, at that time, the Braves did stink. And even if they go on to win the World Series, I'll still tell you the Braves stunk to open the season.
Congratulations to Ben Griffin and Andrew Novak, who won their first tour event as a team at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Andrew Novak, a graduate of Wofford College.
Novak finished runner-up in the playoff a week ago, comes back strong. Man, Rory and Shane made a late push, but hats off to Novak, man. That was awesome.
Congratulations to them. The regular season for North Greenville baseball has come to an end. NGU took 2 of 3 from Southern Wesleyan over the weekend. Trailblazers finished the season 42-11, 21-9 in conference play. The Conference Carolinas tournament begins on Thursday in Gastonia, as NGU will take on UNC Pembroke. Man, and they just keep winning games up there. They just keep stacking dubs under Landon Powell.
He's really good, no doubt.
Spartanburg Methodist College announced over the weekend that longtime baseball coach Tim Wallace will be retiring after a 34-year career. He'll retire with 1,351 wins, 12 Region 10 titles, and 7 JUCO World Series appearances. Wallace planned to coach for several more years, but has battled cancer for the last year and will be stepping down.
Yeah, this one's tough for me, Diesel. Tim Wallace, not only a great baseball coach, a really good guy, really good friend of mine. Him and I are in the we're in a hunt club together. We duck hunt together. He's been a good buddy of mine, a hunting buddy of mine for several years, and we spend a lot of time together in the winter hunting ducks. And he's an awesome guy, and he's battling a tough disease right now. So my prayers are with him.
Hub City Spartanburgers, more like Dub City ass kickers. They beat the Greenville Drive in the very first series of what are they calling it? The I-85 series? Is there a name for it?
They're calling it that. I don't love that, but that's what they're calling it.
It feels a little easy,
yeah,
like a little on the nose.
And it's not near 85. And like I get it. I get it. But
well, it's not Greenville's fault that the city of Spartanburg built itself
off
15
85.
miles off of I-85.
Okay.
That wasn't a smart decision. But the Spartanburgers took 4 of 6 in the inaugural series. So congratulations to Chad Comer, to Tyson Jeffers, and everybody associated. Spartanburgers looking real good right now. Great way to start their inaugural season. The Atlanta Braves, we mentioned them earlier, they're back in action tonight at 8:40 against the Rockies. Bryce Elder will get the nod for Atlanta. He's got a 5.57 ERA in 21 innings pitched. We talked about this in the last segment, Cole. The son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich admitted to a prank call made to Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft and apologized in an Instagram post on Sunday. He also called Shedeur directly and had a conversation with him. The NFL is looking into the situation, specifically how Sanders' private number was leaked. Some people believe that maybe Jeff Ulbrich left his iPad out, and there was a list of contacts on that iPad, and maybe his son just walked up and went click, took a photo of it, and then, of course, you go to a frat house where dudes are drinking. They say, hey, let's mess with the guy. And then we get the viral video that we got.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, I'm glad he apologized and manned up, Diesel, but still, it's that's one of those things that you just you don't do. That's not cool.
Credit to Shedeur for even fielding that phone call.
100%.
So my understanding is what I've heard is a lot of these guys will have private phone numbers, essentially a burner phone just for the draft, so that only one person or only 32 people have the phone number, and that's how it got out. Milwaukee Bucks star Damian Lillard will undergo an MRI on Monday to determine the severity of the lower left leg injury that forced him to exit Sunday night's 129-103 Game 4 loss to the Indiana Pacers in the first quarter. Preliminary examination indicated a possible Achilles tendon injury, and that's multiple sources are confirming that information. It's wild that we've seen so many heinous, egregious injuries in the playoffs so far. We've seen a couple. Ja Morant
every year.
Who was the one on Thursday that injured his hip in one of those
Jimmy
games?
Jimmy
Butler. Yeah, there you go. So I mean, that's stars of the game who are going out at critical times. The city of Columbia is unveiling a statue to honor Dawn Staley on Wednesday at 4 p.m. The intersection of Senate Street and Lincoln Street in downtown Columbia going to feature a Dawn Staley statue, and the public can go.
I'm going to talk about this in the next segment, Overreaction Monday, because I've seen a lot of crap on Twitter in the past 4 hours. I've got some thoughts on this.
Carolina Panthers have agreed to terms to sign former Clemson and Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow, a 1-year deal for them. And finally, Cole, no Clemson players were drafted until the 4th round of the 2025 NFL draft. First Clemson Tiger taken was number 119. The Bengals took linebacker Barrett Carter. Chargers added R.J. Minkins, and the Cowboys drafted Phil Maffa. This snaps a 10-year streak of Clemson Tiger players being drafted on the second day or better.
Yeah, it's a long streak coming to an end. Also want to mention how cool it was to see Death Valley sold out, 81+ thousand people on Saturday night for the Savannah Bananas. That was unbelievable. I didn't go, obviously, but if you did go, let us know on the phone lines. Text line open as well. It's the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. I have an overreaction to an overreaction I saw earlier today, Diesel, and I want to hear yours and the Tolos overreaction on this Overreaction Monday. That's next. How about a little overreaction, Tolos? If you do not know what Tolo means, or you hear Diesel and I say Tolo and have asked the question, what's that mean? What's a Tolo? Well, it stands for turn on, leave on. That's what Diesel and I ask you, Tolos, to do each and every day right here on the Fan Upstate. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He, sitting across from me, shirtless today, looking all spiffy, is Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. He lost a bet Thursday. He's paying up, as he always does. Look at those biceps on the stream. 185 people, Diesel, are seeing those biceps.
Bicep. I never really had the big biceps. I got the big shoulders.
Well, what do you think? How do you think people are going to react? I mean, Tom.
I mean, people are going to swoon is how they're going to react.
That's true. We've already had one Tolo, Tom in Somerville, who has changed his profile. Is that right?
His Twitter avatar is the word for it. His Twitter profile photo is me shirtless. God. My only problem is that it's just like it's a blurry screen grab from the video.
Should you get paid for that?
Text me that. He didn't message me and ask for number one, permission. Number two, he didn't ask for a better photo, because I would have given it.
That's so. You would have went outside and done a. I mean, we'd really want to get a shirtless photo, Tom.
We would have gone full George Costanza on the couch in the white boxer shorts and socks.
So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to overreact to, and then we're going to go to the phone lines, and after that, Diesel will get into our overreactions. But first, let's give a quick summary of what's coming from you and I. Dawn Staley's getting a statue.
Yep.
And Dawn Staley 110% deserves a statue, in my opinion, and the opinion of Cole Bryson, that no one really cares. Diesel, she deserves the statue. I've seen a lot of idiots on social media asking the question, well, where's Steve Spurrier's statue? Where's Steve Spurrier's statue? Look, you build statues for coaches that bring natties. I'm going to get into that. Not right now. Diesel, you are going to give us a little bit of.
Well, number one, I agree with you that she deserves a trophy, and this person is an idiot who says, "Well, Steve Spurrier."
It's like hundreds.
Stop doing this reverse engineering thing. Well, if one person gets a trophy, everybody gets a trophy. Stop with that. We don't need to be encouraging that kind of opinion. But I don't think she deserves it yet. You shouldn't give somebody a statue of themselves while they're still actively coaching. Dawn is a young woman, right? She still has, she's probably going to be coaching for another 10, 15 years, So think about the possibility that Dawn passes by this thing on her way to work every day, and she gets that little smile on her face. Like, there's me. I used to be great. And what if that might be part of that just tiny little ripple effect that makes her start to say, okay, well, my best days are behind me, or I can rest on my laurels because I'm great, because I got a trophy or I got a statue over there.
I'll get back into that. I just wanted to give a quick snippet of what I'm going to overreact to, Diesel, a quick snippet of what you're going to overreact to as well.
NFL drafts is too damn long.
Ooh.
Very simple. It's too damn long.
Too long. Yep. All right, Tolos, if you don't agree with what Diesel and I said, get in the text line, get in line to text us. How about this? Text the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line.
There you go. Sound it out.
We got it that time.
Reel it back in.
Reel it in. The Hub City Spartan Burgers text line is open at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Let's go to the phone lines. We've got JD up first on this Overreaction Monday. Tolos, we want to hear from you on the phone lines as well. JD, what's your overreaction?
Hey, well, first of all, Cole, I just want to say I'm sorry and I love you.
Sorry for what?
You know exactly what.
You don't have anything to say sorry for.
All show. Don't make me go Nick Saban on you. Don't make me say, hey, listen.
You have nothing.
Exactly what I'm
you have
about.
Nothing to.
You got mad because I said I didn't want to hear any more Shedeur.
So let me ask you this question. I'm going to stop you right there. When did I say I got mad? When did I tell you that?
No, you didn't tell me that, but I can tell by the way
you can't tell. When I tweet 4 words, or let me back up. When I tweet 2 words that say "don't listen," I can say, Diesel, have a great day, or go, break a leg. You can't tell by a text or a tweet my tone. So 2 words, "don't listen," that doesn't mean I got mad.
No, I like I said, no, I can't tell by what you said back, but I can tell by how you've responded back to me. which is not at all.
Wow. There's a lover's quarrel going on the station right now.
Anyways.
You guys didn't know you were tuning in for Days of Our Lives.
Right. All I was saying is if you don't like what we're talking about, there is a very simple solution. Don't listen.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't. I did not listen to that.
Well, there you go.
segment, because as far as I'm concerned, y'all can call him Shedeur, Shedoo, Shedum. Y'all can call him whatever you want. I'm so overhearing about the guy. But that's not my overreaction. My overreaction, though, is more about the Bill Belichick and the Jordan Hudson thing.
Mm-hmm.
If she wanted to influence what they talked about on that interview yesterday, why did she not influence what Bill Belichick wore as his T-shirt? My God, he looked like Peter Griffin with his ripped underwear, with his little tear in his T-shirt there.
So JD, you're reading
He
really
doesn't
deep.
have on a T-shirt.
You're reading really deep into Cole's emotions by what he doesn't say, and you're concerned with what old men are wearing. What's become of you, JD?
See,
What's become of you?
Y'all always try to derive words out of what I'm saying. No, I'm saying if she was so concerned about what they're talking about, if she says that they can't talk about certain topics, I would imagine that she dressed Bill for that interview.
God, did you spend the entire weekend watching the Bravo network?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Thanks for the call, JD.
Oh, good stuff. Let's see. On the text line, G text in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line and says the NFL draft is too long. Texter from the 431 says Braves are still trash, by the way. Max Fried is doing great in New York. Go Yankees. Thanks a lot. Texter says go Burgers, 4-2 win over Greenville. Buckeye Brian says Dawn Staley's a crybaby. She's terrible in handling criticism.
Crybaby. Crybaby. That's harsh. That's harsh, Texter. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's bring in Dewey, who's been waiting on the line. I can't imagine what Dewey wants to talk about today.
Yes, I got two overreactions. First of all, well, three, if you want to count this. What in the world's going on with Rick and Greer?
Oh, good
that
question.
was a bizarre. That was worse than mine, and I was insulted by that.
Oh, yeah. Three women. Three women would date Rick and Greer. Can you believe it?
I don't. 'Cause
Okay.
I can't get three women.
What's your
I can
second
get four.
overreaction?
But anyways, Shedeur Sanders, he got what he deserved. He should have, honestly, with his behavior and all the shenanigans with Colorado and retiring his jersey and his daddy being his daddy and being a clown, and he's a clown. He should have went undrafted.
Let's don't forget, he bought out a strip club,
put up
too.
With that.
He bought out a
They go to the
strip club.
club and whatever else. It would not surprise me if he would have went undrafted. The NFL sees right through this crap. He's going to be toxic to whoever he goes to. He's not. My overreaction to this is he's not going to be a starter in the NFL. He's not going to see any playing time no time soon.
Now, Dewey, are you going to apologize to JD because JD's tired of hearing about Shedeur?
Well, no, because I'm kind of tired of it too. But y'all can talk about it because y'all get paid money to talk about it.
Not a lot of money, but we do get paid money to do it.
But anyways, yeah. But no, that's all I got to say about that.
What's number three?
I'm glad he got the fifth round, and he's not going to see playing time. Third overreaction: the Braves. They did what I said they were going to do. They didn't sweep. They did better. They took 2 out of 3. My overreaction is they're going to finish 500. They're going to finish a month over 500.
Ooh.
They could. Never know. Rockies are a good chance to do that, man.
Well, hey, Dewey, do you know how you eat an elephant?
I haven't tried it yet.
It's not. Don't think too hard. One spoonful at a time.
Oh, God.
Okay, one spoonful at a time, and that's what the Atlanta Braves have to do. They're having to eat an elephant.
Oh yeah, well, one step at a time, yeah. But if they crap the bed against Colorado, then their season's their season's over. But why in the world are they bringing back the Rosario guy? Y'all see that? I guess that they bring back Jesse Chavez about 100,000 times. So let's just bring back A. Rosario too. He sucks now. That was 5 years ago.
At least he knows his way around the locker room.
Thanks for the call,
There's
Dewey.
that. Thanks,
Appreciate
Dewey.
you as always. That's good stuff.
We didn't get his.
Oh no! Sorry.
I'll do it, Dewey. I'll do it for you.
Let's see. Tolo Steve says, JD, who cares what Bill Belichick was wearing? He is still one of the best coaches out there. Tolo Steve says, I'm overreacting to Dewey because he doesn't know that Shedeur Sanders was drafted by the Browns. Already tell him to get up to date with the sports world. Oh, Tolo Steve going at Dewey.
I love Tolo on Tolo violence.
I do too.
I love it.
JD says, I was literally still talking to y'all and got cut off about the Gamecocks being drafted and Kai Kroger who didn't. Tell me you aren't mad again. Well, newsflash, JD, hate to spoil your cereal there. I didn't cut you off. So
yeah, JD, I dropped the call, but it wasn't because we were trying to silence you. It's because you'd been on the air for like 4 minutes already. We got to keep this thing moving. Yeah, it sounded like you had gotten to a logical conclusion on a point. So I dropped the call so that we can move on to the next caller. Apologies that we didn't give you the whole segment.
Texter says, Dewey sounds like he eats crayons. Ooh, Dewey. Dewey, don't let him do that to you. Tom.
Which color tastes the best, Dewey? Text him.
Do they taste different?
844 fan phone.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Tom in Somerville. What's up, Tom?
Hey, guys. I could probably go on about a 45-minute rant of all the topics I want to talk about right now. But I'm gonna sum it down to 3 things real quick.
Why? What's your name?
And actually 4. But Diesel, you asked about how to eat an elephant. Just go to the state fair. You can get an elephant ear every year. Second thing here is this, okay? Diesel, you need to continue this routine of not wearing a shirt because you've got an audience, okay? You can draw in an audience, even if it's for 30 minutes or one segment a week or a day. If you continue to do the shirtless radio job, you can bring in a very big audience.
What am I going to do in the wintertime when it's cold outside, Tom?
Ooh.
Hey, you can suck it up. You'll be all right.
Because I say commit to the bit, right? If I'm going to come in and do the show shirtless, I need to drive to work shirtless also.
Ooh.
If you continue to do that, you will be on ESPN featured in a segment at some point.
There you go.
Now, my overreaction, and JD had a point with Cole's tone here. So my overreaction, okay, Dawn Staley, she's won national championships. That's great. But if she's going to get a statue, how come, and we can all agree that football moves the needle. And as long as football is moving that needle, you have got to do something to honor the winningest coach in school history. And I know both of y'all are very smart here, but you cannot tell me that Steve Spurrier did not change the face of Gamecock football for the better for a very long time.
Well,
now I know we had our bumpy years at the end of Spurrier and into Muschamp, but Spurrier changed the way South Carolina fans view the football program, and that will never change.
How'd that translate into the next coach, Tom?
Well, that was on Muschamp.
Oh, okay.
Muschamp is Muschamp.
Okay, so Tom, if you're gonna put up a Steve Spurrier statue, does that mean you also have to put up a Lou Holtz statue? Because Lou Holtz came over from Notre Dame. He brought all that cachet. He brought all that name recognition. He brought instant credibility to South Carolina. I understand he didn't win a ton of games at South Carolina, but he was a far cry better than anything you had before he got there. So does he get a little statue next to the big Spurrier statue?
No, you can put his name on a building somewhere, but the two football coaches who deserve a statue are Joe Morrison and Steve Spurrier, because no other coach, and I'm not counting Beaver here because he hadn't been here long enough. Spurrier and Morrison changed the football program.
Hey, Tom, real
And
quick. Texter says you can't give a statue to a guy that walked out on the team.
No, that is ridiculous because no other coach in school history except for Joe Morrison and Steve Spurrier have had better success at the time they were here. If anybody wants to argue that South Carolina has had a better, continuous years of success without Joe Morrison or Steve Spurrier, they're crazy. We've had the best runs in our program history with those two coaches.
Tom, we got to run. We got to run real quick. We got to run. I hear you, but let me ask you this: when you build the Spurrier statue at the bottom, when it asks how many SEC titles he won, what are you going to put there?
0. But he took you to Atlanta, and no other coach has done it.
So
And
second
that
place gets a trophy.
Ricky Bobby.
You're not getting a trophy. Actually, they do give a trophy.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Thanks, Tom.
I agree, Diesel. Okay, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
God, that was good. That was a good call, man. Dan B's up next in Overreaction Monday. Dan B, I'm sorry, man. That's those are tough footsteps to follow.
You got to call at the beginning of the segment if you don't want to have to follow Tom.
You know what? I'll just keep this one simple and just go straight at Cole. Set your damn lineup. You haven't done it in over 3 weeks. And you're even at the track during one of those weeks. So no excuses.
I'm sorry.
No excuses.
My fault.
What a loser.
April still remembers to set her lineup most of the time.
Most of the time. Can Cole auto draft his lineup, or does he have to do it himself?
No. Well, no, it keeps the same lineup from your previous.
Okay. Well, that's I just I said it.
Stuff, so he loses out on those points. And then if you kept your lineup the same for 10 weeks in a row, then your lineup would go blank.
Well, I'm not going to do it for 10. I'm not going to do it for 10. I had a strategy, DB, to leave it for 3 weeks, but it didn't work.
Well, you didn't make your individuals, so you're giving up 40 points every week.
I'll do better this week.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
That's good.
Later.
Cole sucks at making his lineup. I do. I really do. I'm not good at fantasy football either. Madcraft, what's up? What's your overreaction on this Overreaction Monday?
Oh man, it's just totally crazy. So listen, we went down to the beach for my brother's conference championships, and he medaled, by the way. Right on.
Congratulations.
What conference and what sport?
Conference of Carolinas. He runs track, and he runs cross country and track and field for Erskine.
Oh wow, he got the talent in the family. What'd you get?
Not that. I'm not a runner. But hey, listen. So we was down there, and we decided to camp. So we had a nice little camping spot, and then we decided we went to the event one day, and we were gone for about an hour and a half. All right, and when we come back, there was a note on our cooler, a whole story written out front and back.
Oh wow!
And then later, the same people that wrote it come by and told me this story to my face, and I want to tell it to y'all. They said while they were driving by, that this little raccoon come out and opened up our cooler and took a package of meat out and was eating our meat. And this guy jumped out. He said it was the craziest thing he had ever seen. He jumped out and he ran and scared the raccoon off and threw our meat away for us. And then they got back in the car and they started driving away. Well, when he started driving away, he turned around and he said, "That son of a gun, that little trash panda come back and stole my turkey and ran off with it. He robbed us. Little trash panda robbed all of our sandwich meat out of our cooler."
And you believe the guy? You believe the guy?
You sure he didn't raid your cooler?
See, I think that's what I was thinking.
Well, there were some other things in that cooler that were probably more valuable than sandwich meat. Anyways,
Okay.
Hey, anyways, number 2, real quick, overreaction. You've been talking about some teams that had really good drafts, and one thing that's just irritating to me is the Chargers. You ought to look that up. Pull that up while you got a minute in your spare time, and look at how the Chargers drafted. I really think it's one of the best drafts we've had in a long time. We did get Amari in Hampton. Awesome call from Diesel there. And then also we got, R.J. Mickens from Clemson and Kyle Kennard from Carolina.
I like that.
It's going to be awesome. And then real quick, my last one, I'll make it quick for you. On our way home from this said trip was I've got a biggest gripe in the world. We were coming home and we decided that we had a little craving for some fast food and we wanted some Wendy's. All right. 4 Wendy's later and a Burger King that all seemed to be closed or in a shift change all at the same time that we all stopped. We decided just to go to McDonald's. So Wendy's, get your act together. That's embarrassing. Anyways, y'all have a good
weekend with a W. Thanks, Madcraft.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Madcraft. Appreciate that.
I mean, the hate spew toward Wendy's there. That came out of nowhere. Really, really a shame. But you know what? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to I just created a rundown for tomorrow, Tease. I'm going to put this statue conversation back on there because it's blowing up on the text line. There's a lot of people interacting about the statue. I get it. It's look, she's still there. There have been numerous texts, so let's plate that to tomorrow and get back to that.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a chance. I know you and I kind of touched on our overreactions for the weekend. Maybe we'll jump back into ours a little bit later on in the show because I think there's some meat on that bone. But when we come back, the Carolina Panthers, Chicago Bears trade for Bryce Young is finally complete. Take a deep breath, Carolina Panthers fans. They can't hurt you anymore. Let's see how this went down in its totality. And did the Carolina Panthers even come close to getting the good end of this deal? That conversation coming up next. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. have a drink, smoke a cigarette, take a hot shower, whatever you do to calm down and come down when something crazy happens. But it's official, Cole. It's done. It's over. The Carolina Panthers Chicago Bears trade that saw Bryce Young drafted number 1 overall last year has officially ended. There's no more trades in connection to this trade. No more players going to anybody's teams.
Tell you what, just hearing that, as long as Bryce Young now has been on this team, if I were a general manager, it would scare the bejeebies out of me. If I made a trade that would that would last this long into the future, there's so much that could happen.
This trade ought to teach David Tepper to keep his fat, rich fingers out of the NFL draft process. Number one, if Bryce Young being terrible last year didn't teach him to keep his fingers out of this trade, this will, Cole. This will. So just a little talent evaluation of what we've got here. What did the Carolina Panthers get out of the deal? Well, the Carolina Panthers got Bryce Young. Last year in the NFL, he was 23rd in total touchdowns. That's not good. He was 23rd in total yards, also not good. He had 9 interceptions and had a QBR of 54.1, the 20th best quarterback in the NFL. Not good.
No,
I mean,
certainly not.
I get it. Tale of 2 seasons. The first 2/3 didn't go his way. He got benched. Last couple games of the season, he came on strong and looked really good. And we all really hope that's who Bryce Young can be in the future, but we don't know. Who did the Chicago Bears get out of this trade? Well, we know that they got DJ Moore.
Good receiver.
Last year, 11th in the league in receptions. 11th in the league in receptions. DJ Moore, good receiver. It's not super productive, but he was targeted a lot. They also got Darnell Wright, who PFF graded as the 16th best offensive tackle in the NFL. There's 2 tackles starting for every team.
Yep.
A lot of guys get rotated in.
Yep.
So being the 16th best out of, at minimum, a field of 64. It's really a bigger, deeper field than that. But 16th best out of at minimum 64, they got a really good offensive tackle out of the deal. They also got Tyreek Stevenson, who tallied 51 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 interceptions last year. Guy's a good defensive player. They got Caleb Williams. Jury's still out. I'm not sold on Caleb Williams. I never will be until he does something special. And they got Luther Burden III.
Pretty good.
Really good wide receiver coming out of college in the draft this year. The Bears fleeced the Carolina Panthers so badly. This will go down in history as one of the most lopsided trades that you could ever put down paper.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So here's the deal with this trade. It's April the 28th, 2025. You and I and everybody else, all of the Tolos out there, Diesel, can agree today that the Bears won this trade. However, I will say the Bears are the Bears, and all it would take is for Bryce Young to continue to do what he did toward the end of last year. So let's just say in a perfect world, right now, you said it, I agree. I think everyone would agree that the Bears won this trade. But if Bryce Young goes out and has, you said, let's call it 22nd best in the NFL, 23rd best, whatever it may be. If he goes from 22nd, 23rd, 24th best to 14th, 15th, 16th best this year, and then all of a sudden next year we're having the conversation of maybe this guy's a top 12 quarterback. Guess what? Top 12 quarterbacks get paid a lot of money. So I'm not saying, I don't want to be unfair and say that Bryce has to go win a Super Bowl for the Panthers to win this trade, because the Bears will never win a Super Bowl, and that would be unfair. However, what I'm saying is they've won today, but let's revisit this a year or 2 from now. While it looks like the Bears pantsed the Panthers, to your point, it wouldn't take as much, in my mind, for the Panthers to turn this thing right back around on them.
Well, sure. I mean, it's a wait-and-see league. You look at up and down the NFL draft board, and you can say this was a great player, that was a great player, this was a bust, he's gonna suck. That you can make all those wait and see determinations, and there is a tremendous amount of truth to that. We were talking about Quinn Ewers going in the 7th round to the Dolphins. People may be saying, "Oh, that's terrible for him." Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
It's like that old story of the old man in the village in China. It says the old man sees a little kid that's born and says, "Oh, how happy." We'll see. A little kid breaks his leg when he's little and gets hurt, and everybody says, "Oh, that's terrible." And he says, "Well, we'll see." Kid grows up a little bit. Little kid's still hurt, can't go off to war. And they say, "Well, how great." We'll see. Like we don't know. We don't know what these players are going to be. Situation matters so much. And some organizations like the Bears, like the Browns, no matter what you do, no matter what you give them, they just can't get it together. But
what I'm saying is, like, if this were let's call it the Packers, Diesel, or the Packers, or even a team like the Chargers, Madcraft's Chargers, if it were the Packers or the Chargers, you'd be like, "Oh God, they're going to go win they're going to go make a deep run." Here's why
you have faith in the organization's ability.
I don't think the Bills. I don't think the Bears are going to do anything. Like you said, when it comes to Caleb Williams, we'll see on that one. And I will say this: Luther Burden III, good receiver at Missouri. Chicago, different than Missouri. Caleb Williams throwing him again to what you said. We'll see with Luther Burden. Yeah, they've won it, but I'm just telling you, man. I'm trying to take the route of a little optimism, Diesel, a little positivity on this Monday for the Panthers' sake, because they've had enough negativity to endure, right? They've gone through a lot.
So it's blind optimism. It's
maybe
hope.
It's a little bit.
It's not optimism. That's hope. And look, I mean, if Bryce Young was 6'2", 220 pounds, and you knew coming out of college he was an elite player, he just didn't have the weapons, didn't put it, then you could say it. But at the end of the day, he's still 5'11", 165 pounds, right? And nothing that he does outside of playing in some like Gene Simmons from Kiss platform boots are going to change how tall he is, or how tall he isn't. And that's not to say that he can't be successful. Doug Flutie was great for a very short amount of time. There have been other short kings in the NFL that have played really, really well. So it's not to say that Bryce Young can't be successful, but history would suggest that little guys are typically not all that successful in the NFL.
Alan Jackson wrote a song, and he would dispute that. If you're an Alan Jackson fan out there, you might know what I'm talking about there, though. But quick format breaker, Diesel. Scotty from BMW on the YouTube stream says, "What did I just stream into? Nice shirt, Diesel."
Yeah.
And that's right, Scotty. If you didn't catch the show Thursday, which you may not have, we had to end the stream Thursday due to some audio issues, but Diesel's paying up for a bet. Mm-hmm. And also, how about this? Scotty from BMW says, "Holla, guys, drinks on me. Hit 5K on a $5 scratcher, and I never buy those things."
Wow, Scotty.
Are you kidding me?
Yo.
It's always the people that win that never buy them, The people that buy scratch-offs and lottery tickets their entire life never win.
Do you buy the $2 ones or the $5 ones?
Me?
Yeah. Do you buy them? Do you buy scratches?
No. I like the 5, 10. Sometimes I'll be bold and go 20, but
you
not normal.
You have a better chance of winning.
Yeah.
The odds are better with the more expensive scratchers, but of course they want you to buy the expensive ones. They want you to spend more money, so they pay out just a little bit.
I hadn't bought one in probably 6 months or so, but
I only usually do it if I have like 2 or 3 random singles in my wallet. I'm like, I don't go a lot of places where I can use cash. I really don't go a lot of places where I'm going to use $2 or $3, right? So I don't ever spend it, and then I go to the store. I'm like, hey, give me the $2
$5K
Powerball
on a $5.
Attaboy.
That's called a return on your investment, Scotty.
Attaboy.
Man,
we can help you spend it real quick, my friend.
Madcraft asked him, "Where are we going, Scotty? Beam me up, Scotty." He says it was like that scene from My Name is Earl. I got 4 tall boys and a $5 scratcher. ran out the door happy as hell, LOL.
Now that sounds like a Luke Combs song.
It does. Well, it is.
And that is
it
Luke
is.
Combs.
Yeah. Oh God, what is it? Scratch off. Bought a case of beer.
Sings about his stepmom or something.
Ex-future or ex mother-in-law, something like that. Future ex-mother-in-law is what he says.
There you go.
Luke. Yeah, you're right.
Good
it does
song.
sound like a Luke Combs song.
Good song.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw this on Twitter about an hour ago. Brandon Marcello Diesel of 247 Sports and CBS Sports, who we've had on the show, good friend of the show, tweeted out this an hour. We want to get your thoughts on this before we run to a break. The ACC is strongly considering shrinking its conference basketball schedule to help boost the league's NCAA tournament profile, sources tell CBS Sports. Increasing expectation is it will be done.
Interesting. So our league sucks so badly. We're not going to play.
Is that not wild?
I don't want to say this out loud because somebody's going to take it the wrong way. We don't want to play with ourselves. We'd rather play with other people because they're better than us.
Man.
I mean, that's a strategy, that's a bold strategy, Cotton.
We'll put that on the rundown somewhere for tomorrow's show.
That is interesting.
That is
interesting. Real quickly, I know we're kind of coming up at the end of this break. I did want to at least let people know, in case you haven't, been paying attention, if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, who you actually drafted, because most people pay attention to the first and second round guys. Outside of that, you really don't care because there's a good chance they're not going to make the rosters anyway. Tedero McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. He was the number one wide receiver. Outside of Travis Hunter, I guess number 2 wide receiver in this draft. He's a long, lengthy guy who's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of jump ball ability. He is your number 8 pick, the top pick for the Carolina Panthers. I found this really interesting, Cole. Here's audio of his media availability with various members of Charlotte media. He's talking to Anish Shroff in this particular clip, but he was asked about playing multiple sports as a kid. He said he played football, basketball, baseball, and volleyball, and he was asked specifically, how did volleyball make him a better football player?
I heard you were quite the volleyball player, and you got to high point those balls. What was it about volleyball that you feel translates to being a wide receiver?
Honestly, just the timing. Like you said, we got to high point the ball and just being able to time the ball at its highest point, and as well as the body control. I feel like me being able to move my body in certain ways in the air, and then as well as being a pogo stick, being explosive, being able to come off the ground quick. It definitely helped me in the football realm for sure.
The second pick for the Carolina Panthers, round 2, number 51 pick, was Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. He's a guy, Cole, that has a lot of speed, especially when he reverses course, right? He'll blast through the line. A lot of times they'll push him to the outside. He'll get around whoever's trying to block him and then really quickly show the ability to turn back upfield and chase down the quarterback or the running back from behind. And here he is talking about how playing basketball as a kid really helped him improve his footwork skills and his ability to do that.
So on defense, I played I was dang near the point guard. I played the top of all the pressures. I would run the court. But on offense, I guess I was a center. We had this guy named Rodney who was really good. He's playing D1 basketball. I think he went to Toledo. Yes, sir. He went to Toledo, and man, he was just ridiculous. So he was our big man, but I was the big man on. I kind of just set screens and got rebounds. So, but I think it helped me a lot actually.
So he had to guard point guards a lot.
So you're saying playing other sports helps? Oh, heard that before.
And last one here for you, Cole. This one's really interesting. Trevor Etienne, who his name. He was the Carolina Panthers' 4th round pick, number 114 overall running back out of Georgia. He was asked what he learned from his brother Travis Etienne, Clemson great, about being a professional and getting ready for this draft process.
Man, just enjoy it. He always told me, don't try to leave a legacy, live a legacy. And that's something he told me in high school. And, I carry it through life. And what I've learned from him is how much, you have to become a pro. how much you have to like really, lock in and become a student of the game and just take care of your body. And so I learned so much, man. It's where words can't explain it.
I thought you said that was ETN. Was that Lil Wayne or ETN? I mean, seriously. I mean, was that Lil Wayne in that audio?
He didn't sound like he was from New Orleans, did he?
Sounds like Lil Wayne, man. Yeah. I thought it was for a minute.
In all likelihood, Trevor Etienne probably not going to make this team. 4th round guys, a decent chance, not a super high chance. You got Lathan Ransom, safety from Ohio State, Cam Jackson, defensive tackle from Florida, Mitchell Evans, tight end from Notre Dame, and Jimmy Horn Jr., wide receiver from Colorado. Cam Mitchell, Jimmy, probably not going to make this team.
Let's keep it local in the very next segment, Tolos. If you're a Clemson fan, if you're a South Carolina Gamecock fan, you'll want to hear what we have for you next. Diesel is shirtless today on this Monday edition of Wire to Wire, showing off the muscles on the live stream. 197 of you watching right now. My Twitter video title said Diesel's nude. Hopefully that got one or two of you to tune in or block me. Who knows? We'll see. But Diesel, when it comes to South Carolina, when it comes to Clemson, we cover both of those teams, obviously very heavily throughout the season. Let's see what they did during the draft and how we think they may fare. You mentioned it earlier in the show, a record-breaking year for Clemson, not in a good way, in terms of draft picks, right? Clemson players usually littered all throughout the first and second round of the NFL draft. The Clemson football 2025 NFL draft recap, Diesel, goes as Barrett Carter, 4th round, picked by the Bengals, 119th. R.J. Mickens in the 6th round to the L.A. Chargers, and running back Phil Maffa in the 7th round, drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. 3. That's all. That's the entire list.
It's not good.
Just a surprising year. Maybe the good news on that front, Diesel, is everybody came back and Clemson's going to have a good year if you want to spin it positive.
Well, look, you telling me that teams and coaches that are recruiting against Clemson are not going to use this against them? You telling me that Shane Beamer or Mike Norvell or Kirby Smart aren't going to go into a kid's living room who's thinking about Clemson as one of their options and say, yeah, but Dabo can't put you in the league. Dabo can't put you in the league. And look, I understand that Clemson's 2026 class looks really good right now. It's still super early on that, but it's going to get used. If you're telling me that Nick Saban used I put guys in the league as part of his pitch to get players to come to Alabama, then you don't believe that coaches aren't going to use that against Clemson and say they don't put guys in the league. You're delusional.
Yeah, I would say if it happens, Diesel, again, and it becomes a normal occurrence, I would agree with you. As long as it's a one-off and it's just a bad year in terms of Clemson players getting drafted, I'm not going to go that extreme yet. Coaches may try to use it, but if Dabo's draft history, if there's a 1-year gap of not a lot of players getting drafted, I think that'll still speak for itself, especially if TJ Parker and Peter Woods and Cade and Antonio Williams and Avion Terrell.
Doesn't have to be super true for coaches to use it against them.
No, it doesn't have to be. That's Clemson when it comes to what happened in the NFL draft. When it comes to South Carolina, Tonka Hemingway, how about that? Drafted number 135 overall to the Las Vegas Raiders over the weekend in the 4th round. Kyle Kennard and Madcraft brought it up earlier. I do agree with him. The Chargers had a really good draft. Kyle Kennard drafted Diesel 125 overall. Demetrius Knight Jr., 49 overall to the Bengals. I love that because they need some help behind that defensive line when they just signed a big payday to one of their best players, Diesel. TJ Sanders, number 41 to the Bills. Nick Manwari, 35 to the Seahawks. A lot of Gamecocks landing in some really good spots. But, man, I'll tell you what, at Kyle Kennard, man, to the Chargers, I think that stands out to me. He's a guy that you can plug in immediately, and I think he'll be an impact guy for the Chargers.
Yeah, huge shout out to what Shane Beamer has done over the last couple of seasons. He's building a roster full of dogs that make their way to the NFL.
Yeah, and you know what? They may experience the same thing next year Clemson's experiencing this year. Their class next year doesn't look as strong, but you look at that defense and what they had last year and what they're losing. Yeah, Carolina's still going to be good this fall, but, man, they lost a lot on that defensive front. So congratulations to those. Obviously, some of those that we did not name, Diesel, undrafted free agents as well. Also want to give a shout-out to Rajay Harris, former ECU running back who we've had on the show, Diesel, former Burns Rebel, signed yesterday by the Buffalo Bills. So really excited for Rajay. Hopefully he can go up there and make an opportunity for himself in Buffalo.
And to that point, Cole, that is a big reason why I said what I did in our Overreaction Monday segment at 5 o'clock. we didn't really get a chance to get into ours because the callers were absolutely fantastic. You know, JD, Tom, Madcraft, Dewey, Dan, all the Tolos that called in to make that segment as much fun as it is. We didn't really have a ton of time to get to our takes, so we're going to get to that next. A big reason why I think the NFL draft ought to be shortened, and we'll get back into this conversation about Shedeur Sanders. That's next. The NFL draft is too damn long. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Look, Cole, you and I both know that players drafted in the 6th and 7th rounds of the NFL draft are unlikely to make the roster. They're very unlikely to stick around for more than a year or two at most. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. There's Tom Brady and the like. But most of the time, 6th and 7th round guys don't make it. The problem, Cole, is when you're a 6th or 7th round guy, you may get drafted to a team that really doesn't know how to use you or doesn't have a use for you. And that is my big problem with the 6th and 7th rounds of the NFL draft. They need to run 1 through 5 as they usually do. Those guys, rounds 1 and 2, that's the round for your starters. Rounds 3, 4, and 5, that's your depth guys and your backups and your practice squad guys. After that, they're probably not going to make the roster. So why not let the 6th and 7th round draft picks have an open call to go try out for whatever teams that they want, essentially increasing the pool of the undrafted free agent players? I think that's what they should do. Am I wrong?
You're not. Yes and no. So, look, I understand that to your first point, it's unlikely for a late guy to blossom, right? It is unlikely. However,
the percentages drop every round.
They do drop. However, they still exist. And for that reason, the stories of the guys like the Tom Bradys, like the Shannon Sharps of the world who was drafted in the 7th round, because they still exist, I don't want to just absolutely do away with them, because you're cutting the guys who would go on to have these stellar careers. To your point, though,
I'm not cutting them out of the league. I'm just saying they're not going to be drafted anymore. They can go try out for any team they want.
Yeah, but I don't know that if the tryouts, what's the difference? I mean, if you're talking about tryouts versus drafting, they've already tried out at the combine, right? What are they getting, like a second tryout?
I think you get the chance to find a team that needs your particular set of skills, and then you go try out for that team.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't have a problem. Me personally, I don't have a problem with the way the NFL draft is now. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I remember Rayfield Wright from the old Cowboys, like growing up watching, what Rayfield Wright did. I mean, if you're a old school Cowboys fan or an old school NFL fan, and you remember kind of like the Tom Landry days that started the Cowboys in the right direction, the name Rayfield Wright, and he was picked in the 7th round, and you just think of guys like that who changed the trajectory of a franchise.
Sure.
I don't want to completely change it just because it's too long. Terrell Davis with the Broncos comes to mind as well. 6th round, changed the direction of a franchise. So I'm for it. I don't mind it. I don't want to change it right now.
Yeah, I'd rather just give them an opportunity to go find the best possible situation for themselves. 6th round guys, I mean, there's some good players that you can still get in the 6th and 7th rounds of the draft. This year, Kyle McCord went in the 6th round. Obviously, quarterback. You got Dorian Strong, edge rusher out of Virginia Tech. He went. R.J. Mickens from Clemson went in the 6th round. You move over to the 7th round, and Quinn Ewers goes in the 7th. Phil Maffa goes in the 7th. And this year's Mr. Irrelevant, Kobe Minor, defensive back from Memphis. Those guys go in the 6th and 7th rounds. And again, I'm not hating on the draft. I'm not saying that the television isn't compelling. I'm just saying at that point, let those guys go find the right opportunity for themselves. Just like the guys who are undrafted free agents now get to go out and find the best situations for themselves. I would say, hey, guys that are probably not going to make the roster, we're not going to stick you on a team that may or may not know how to use you, may or not want to use you. They just have to make picks there.
And you know what?
That's just
the most interesting one I can think of to this entire conversation to this point is Clemson right here in the upstate. Clemson's Dwight Clark, who went on Diesel to, we all know what, the catch, the most famous catch in probably NFL history, right? In an NFC championship game, 2 Pro Bowls for Dwight Clark. And he was drafted in the 10th round of the NFL draft. Like, you would just never imagine a guy out of the 10th round to be as good as Dwight Clark was. So sometimes you just have to find that needle in the haystack. Texter says, Cole, what do you think of Dallas' selection of Phil Maffa? I love it. Dallas needs a running back. I believe they got 2 running backs, if I'm not mistaken, Texter. I don't know if you're a Cowboys fan or not, but if you are, I love it. Phil Maffa, when healthy, is really, really good. And you know what?
And he was not healthy for the majority of last season.
Last year he wasn't. And that's the bad thing. We didn't really get to see what could have been Phil Maffa's, farewell tour, if you will, at Clemson, because like you said, he was banged up. If they give him time, Texter, if Dallas rehabs him the right way and gives him time, I really like it. And again, to Diesel's point, he's late in the draft, so we'll see. But give him a chance and let's see if we can get him healthy.
Some of the most interesting and compelling stories from around the NFL draft, obviously, is Cam Ward. He deserves – we give Madcraft a lot of crap because he dishes out a lot back to us, but obviously Cam Ward deserves a tremendous amount of flowers, being a guy that went from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami to number 1. I mean, this is a guy that used the transfer portal to the maximum amount of value. He got the maximum amount of value that you can get out of the transfer portal. I mean, it's crazy to think that guy could have been an unknown quarterback playing at FCS Incarnate Word. He gets a lot of credit for that. He's obviously a really humble guy who's ready to go to work there for Tennessee. He's got an uphill battle. He's got a real uphill battle. Tennessee is to use the conversation piece that we had with Mark Schlereth about the Panthers a couple months ago, bereft of talent. So he's going to have to carry this team on his back. And we'll see. We'll see how Cam Ward plays out.
Did you see who the team? And by the way, I agree with you with Cam. I like Cam. I think Cam's going to have a good.
I think
NFL
it's because he's such a
career.
low key guy. It's difficult to talk about him as much because we don't get that personality out of him. I mean,
he's a football.
Is it a red flag that he came out midway through the bowl game? Yeah, I think that is a red flag.
Yeah.
But and we're not talking about that as a major red flag with Cam, the way that we talk about all of Shedeur's red flags.
I do want to mention Diesel. I don't know if you saw this or not. The Panthers took McMillan in the first round. Did you know, or did you see who had their card on the table to take McMillan if he was still there? It was my Dallas Cowboys. They wanted McMillan. Yeah,
interesting.
They did. So instead, the Panthers grab him at 12. See, Dallas was right behind Carolina at 12. It was 8-12, and Dallas wanted McMillan.
There was conversation that Dallas wanted to move up and trade with the Panthers to get number 8.
They didn't, and they didn't get. Here's my concern with Dallas: they did not get a number 2 receiver. It's an immediate plug-in guy for Dak.
But if Carolina doesn't go draft McMillan and get a 6'4", springs in his shoes, jump ball kind of wide receiver, we've got another year where Xavier Legette is your best wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, and it's a poor opportunity to really evaluate what Bryce can do. So now he's got back-to-back number 1 first-round wide receivers.
Yeah.
He's got his complement of guys now. Could they plug in another vet? Sure, but they're probably not going to.
I do love, as a Cowboys fan, though, Tyler Booker out of Alabama, that pick at 12. The Cowboys also got an edge in round 2, cornerback round 3, running back Jaden Blue. How about that name for a running back? Jaden Blue at pick 12 in round 5. And then I did want to get to Phil Maffa. We talked about that. I'll tell you what. There were several teams. I mentioned the Patriots earlier in the show. Diesel is having the best draft. I think there's a handful of teams this year, 5 or 6 teams, that while we didn't have the quarterback draft like we're accustomed to, I think you could see guys 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years down the road. You point back to this draft in 2025 and say, you know what? We didn't talk about this guy enough. Didn't talk about this guy enough. I think there's a lot of sleepers in this draft. And look, there's some storylines going into this season that I can't wait to follow. We hadn't even touched on Jackson Dart in New York and Tyler Shuck and New Orleans with Rattler. I mean, it's going to be really, really interesting.
Well, when you have a relative lack of elite players, that means you have a surplus of deep players.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this year plays out. Some of these guys who we expected to be great will go on to bust. And some guys that we expected to bust may go on to be great. There's a chance that Shedeur Sanders goes on to be great.
Could be
for the Cleveland Browns, but you just never know. Scotty from DMW asked a question earlier. What does Quinn dropping so low say about Arch Manning at Texas? So I don't know that it says a whole lot about Arch. I think it says a lot about Texas, about pushing a guy like Quinn Ewers, who got you to the playoffs and the semifinals, pushing him out the door for a guy with a great name. That's really interesting. You know, I mean, what does that say about Steve Sarkisian? Is that he's willing to push a guy out?
Maybe Steve knew that he wasn't any good.
I don't know, but he got you where he got you, right? I mean, is he not any good? But he got you. He got you to the promised land that every other coach who doesn't make the playoffs says, "By God, I would love to get just that far."
Yeah.
So that's gonna be fun to watch. I think Quinn Ewers we talked about it earlier. He's going to a good spot. He's going to Miami, where Tua is injury prone, and he's got a bag of potato chips sitting in front of him on the depth chart. So he has a really good chance to be the number 2 guy this year. And he has, obviously, with Tua's injuries, he has a good chance to be the number 1 guy.
That's bad, but true.
Never know. And that's the fun part about the draft is sometimes falling is actually a good thing.
Yeah, it completely could be. Here's a fun game I want to do, Diesel, in this segment. The first round, we've talked about certain players, right? We've talked about some really good players. We've talked about some head scratchers. A quick game for the first round of the draft. I'm going to rapid fire run through the first round of selections. And here's the quest that you have laid out in front of you. You only get to hold on to one player's name. So, like, for example, if I read off Cam Ward at 1 and you love Cam Ward and you think if you were a GM in the NFL and you think, oh, boy, this, Cam Ward in Tennessee, it doesn't get much better than this. This guy could really change the trajectory of the franchise. You hold on to him. However, if I get to 5 and say Mason Graham from Michigan at Cleveland and you like that better, you have to dump your first selection, okay? So as we go through all 32, I want to know what name and destination you covet. You hold in your hands, those 10 fingers of yours, Diesel, and Tolos, play along as well here. What situation and player? Because we talk a lot about situation. What situation / player combo do you like the best now that the dust has settled? You ready?
Yep.
Cam Ward, Tennessee Titans.
Stay with Cam.
Okay. Travis Hunter, Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville's
Can
such
I
a crap.
interest you in that?
No, Travis. Okay.
Like Trevor needed that, right?
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go with Travis Hunter because Trevor's already there. They've got Travis Etienne on offense.
That could be deadly.
I think they're just a little farther along than the Titans are. It's not to say Cam may not be a better quarterback, but over the next maybe 2 or 3 years, I'm saying that Travis makes a big time impact.
And they're in the same division. Am I saying that right? Maybe I'm wrong on that. Okay, I'm with you. I think there's some potential there. Yep. We'll see. New York Giants, Abdul Carter.
No, I'm still staying with Travis.
I agree with you. New England Patriots, Will Campbell.
Good player, but how much does an offensive was it guard? I think he's listed as a guard.
Yeah. Well, he's a tackle.
He's a tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, how much can he really affect?
Sure. Ginty in Vegas at the Raiders.
I don't think Ginty is going to be that good of a pro. I think he'll be solid, but I don't know that he'll be. He won't do in the NFL what he did at Boise.
So you've still got Travis Hunter in your hands. You're holding Travis Hunter right now. You're coveting that. Armand Membu, New York Jets. Are you going to let them go for Armand Membu, the offensive tackle?
No.
Okay. Tedero McMillan, wide receiver, Panthers. You going to let Hunter go for old Tet Mac?
No, because I think Trevor Lawrence still will end up being a better pro, and so you'll have a better quarterback throwing to Travis.
Offensive tackle, Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas goes to the Saints. No. Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan, goes to the Bears. Would you trade that in for your Travis Hunter pick right now?
No, because it's still Caleb Williams throwing at him.
All right, what about this one? Michael
Throwing
Williams.
at him, not to him.
Yeah, that's true.
Very specific with the language.
Diesel edge out of Georgia. Michael Williams goes to San Francisco. I don't know. I kind of like this. They need some edge. They got to rebuild that defense.
They need some defense, yeah.
They got to rebuild that, but still not. Again, how impactful can an edge guy be compared to?
Can he be the guy that pushes them past the Chiefs?
We'll see. No, I don't think so. No. Tyler Booker from Alabama, offensive guard, goes to my Dallas Cowboys. Nice pick, but are you going to give up Travis Hunter for Tyler Booker?
No.
Defensive tackle out of Michigan. I bet I can guess your answer there. What about a tight end out of Penn State, Tyler Warren? That was a good tight end. Second one pick going to the Indianapolis Colts. Can I interest you there? No.
Still the Colts.
What about Jalen Walker, who we thought was going to go to the Panthers? He fell to 15, linebacker out of Georgia. Diesel. Impactful player. Falcons needed him. They couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback last year.
Yeah, but Jalen's a hybrid guy. He's not really elite at rushing the passer. He's not elite at stopping the run. He's really good at both, but he's not elite at either one of those things. Depends on how they use him.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's not. I think he's going to be a good player for them.
I'm going to skip a few and go to this one. This one, when I watched the draft Thursday, this one intrigued me. Wide receiver Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State to Tampa Bay.
Oh, that's one of those ones that you hate to see go in your division because the wide receiver room, even though they're getting older, Mike Evans is still insanely good.
Egbuka's good.
And I think I said this on Friday. I think this is a big reason why the Panthers went McMillan at number 8 because they have to have an elite jump ball guy. They need somebody who's built in the same image and frame as Mike Williams. It's not to say that Ted McMillan is going to be Mike Williams, but they need to have somebody who can stretch the field because they've got nobody who
I
can
like
do that.
this one, don't you? I really do.
I really do. I think Emeka Egbuka is a phenomenal wide receiver, and the
Ohio State
Bucks just got so much better at wide receiver.
Are you going to give him up? Give Hunter up for him, though?
Oh, man. I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm thinking about it because Baker's a better quarterbak than Trevor right now. So I'm going to
Yeah. I mean, he is.
Yeah, you know what? I am.
Okay.
I'm going to get rid of Travis Hunter for Emeka Egbuka. I think he's going to make the biggest impact on his team. I don't know who they had on. Rich Eisen had a guest on at the end of his show. And he was talking about you should feel like you need to draft a quarterback every other year because you never know when you need to reload. And you can't wait until you have to do something before you go out and get it because then you get desperate. But I think that's exactly what the Bucks did with Egbuka. They saw that their two best wide receivers are getting a little bit older, still got a couple more years in them. So let's get Egbuka up to speed. And by the time Mike Williams retires, Emeka could be he could be an absolute beast.
It could be good. Scotty from BMW says the Browns had the best draft. Scotty, look, man, I'll get more into this tomorrow. I'll put it on the rundown. I disagree. I just don't think they did. I really don't. Now, Diesel, you've got in your hands, you've got Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State.
Yep. Like a little baby bird in my hand.
Let's go all the way down where we're going to pass Amari and Hampton, who went to the Chargers. Good pick. Let's go to Matthew Golden out of Texas, who went to Green Bay. My opinion, I think Green Bay had the best round one of the NFL draft, putting them from a really, really, really good team in the NFL, maybe to a team that can go make a Super Bowl run. I love Matthew Golden going to the Green Bay Packers. I hate it because they're in the NFC, but I don't know. Would you give up Emeka for Matthew Golden?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't. Really good pick. Again, I can't see fault with it. They got themselves a really good player.
And then rapid fire, Jackson Dart, yes or no?
No.
Malachi Starks, really good safety out of Georgia, yes or no?
No.
And I'll throw one more at you. Jahad Campbell, linebacker, Bama.
Where do you go?
The Eagles.
Eagles. Oh,
they're loaded already.
I mean, they're already loaded. The guy he'll see some good reps this year. He won't
Yeah.
see a ton of starter reps, obviously.
So you're going with a Mecca.
Yep.
You like it, and I do too. I like it a lot. I think
they
it's a
did really
good
well with that
situation.
pick. Yeah. When we come back, Cole, we had a great chance earlier in the show to have a conversation with David Newton of ESPN, breaking down exactly how he feels about the Carolina Panthers draft class, top to bottom. We'll talk to David next. See that one coming. The Carolina Panthers for the last 2 or 3 months had given us the impression that they were going defense, defense, defense. You got to get somebody you can go after that quarterback. You got to get an edge rusher. And then they go psych and switch things up on us and take wide receiver Tetero and McMillan as the number 1 pick, the 8th pick in the NFL draft. To break that down and all things Carolina Panthers draft here in 2025, we bring on David Newton of ESPN, covers the Carolina Panthers. David, just a simple question to start things. Are you satisfied with the Carolina Panthers draft haul?
Well, first of all, I'm really impressed at the way you pronounced the first name of their first-round pick. I got a few other ones down the list you can work on with me a little bit because I'm struggling with it. But, yeah, when you think of the logic, actually I think what they did was really smart. They realized that this is a receiver they really love, and they didn't think you would get him or any of the other ones they kind of liked in the second round. So they went ahead and took him then. And I always believe if there's somebody you love and you think it's going to help them, you go ahead and take them then. Don't worry about waiting 5, 10, 15, whatever picks away. And, you know, then they realized that really the talent level, and you heard this all along, once you get past the first 3 or 4 picks, the talent level, you know, for the next 15 or so were pretty even. So they felt like the break-off or the breakdown between, you know, what they were going to get as an edge rusher in the first round versus what they got in the second and third wasn't that big. And they really liked 2 of the guys they got, and they feel good about that. And so I think that actually worked out pretty good. I mean, I know they always say they got their guy. You never know whether to believe them or not, but the guys they got as edge rushers were 2 guys they really were high on and feel like they could develop. So I think overall I like the draft. I know it's getting mixed reviews, and mainly because they took a wide receiver, you know, when they have so many needs on defense. But I think it showed that they believe that Bryce Young more than anything, and they believe with a few more good pieces, particularly a number 1 receiver, that'll be as big of a help as getting a quality edge rusher.
David, you know, I went to bed Thursday night a little disappointed in the pick. I'm not a Carolina Panthers fan, but to Diesel's point, was also expecting defense. Woke up Friday morning and had come around to it a little bit. Can you go into detail a little bit on, from what you've heard from Dan Morgan and Dave Canales and others, what it was about McMillan that the Panthers liked so much?
Well, he's a possession receiver, a guy that makes a tough catch. I know there's some issues with separation. He's not elite speed, but he is a guy that catches a lot of balls and been productive. If you look at what he did the last couple of years, I mean, that production is just hard to deny it. They haven't had anybody other than Adam Thielen, who's about 93 now. They haven't had anybody to be really that productive in this offense, and they need some guys to build around young guys moving forward, so they'll have a long-term future with Bryce Young. Now they've got 2 with you know, McMillan and Xavier Legette, their first-round pick last year, to grow with Bryce Young. It also showed that they're really not convinced that Legette can be that number 1 receiver. They think he can be a good player, but I don't get the feeling they feel like he's going to be a great player at this point. So I think it spoke volumes on a lot of fronts right there, but mostly they believe in Young, and that with the right people, that this could be a really explosive offense. So they've added a lot of pieces there.
David, look into your crystal ball to, you know, just a little under a year from now as we're staring down the 2026 NFL draft. Does you know, bringing in now a true number 1 wide receiver in Tet McMillan kind of put the pressure on Bryce Young to perform, i.e. they've now got back-to-back first-round wide receivers. Adam Thielen is as good as he can be at his age, right? But at that point, you know, Bryce Young will have basically what he needs to go out and be a quality quarterback in the NFL. And if he still can't do it, does that then put the pressure on the Panthers to maybe consider moving on and go draft a quarterback next year?
I don't know if you can have more pressure than Bryce had last year, coming to last season after a horrific rookie season, and then to lose his job 2 games in, you know, because he was playing even worse, and then to come back and play as well as he did the second half of the season. I don't think the pressure is really a factor for Bryce Young. I think he showed he could handle that last year, and I think he he's headed in the right direction right now. I think this shows that with the right players around him, like he had at Alabama, that Bryce can be as successful as anybody in the league. And I think that's more or less what this proved. You never know with these situations how it's going to turn out year to year. I mean, as well as he finished last year, they knew they needed some more pieces on this offense, but it was so overshadowed by how bad the defense was. Nobody really thought just how bad they could use some help. And I think this showed the commitment from Dan Morgan and Dave Canales to Bryce long term, that they really believe that he can be that guy.
I saw, David, a lot of mixed interaction on Twitter, on social media over the weekend, but a lot of really positive interaction from Panthers fans. And with us being right here in the upstate of South Carolina, only an hour or so from Charlotte, the Panther fans in our audience need something to get excited about. And I want to allow you, as David Newton of ESPN, to help our listeners tomorrow ask questions that you think Dan Morgan needs to be asked. We're having Dan Morgan on tomorrow at 4:20 on the show. If you were a fan out there of the Carolina Panthers listening, what do you think it would be that would be burning inside of you that you would want to know now that the dust has settled?
Well, I know how Dan's going to answer most questions, so the questions I really want to ask, I probably won't ask because I know what the answer is going to be and how vague it's going to be because Dan's smart that way. But if I was a fan, after 7 straight losing seasons, I'd simply want to know, did you do enough to help the defense this offseason that you could contend for the division title this year? And I think that's what people really want to know because, they don't want to know if Bryce Young's going to, put up huge numbers. Yeah, maybe they're a little bit on their mind, but they want to know if this team is ready to win now and not 2 or 3 years down the road. And I think because of all the losing they've had prior to this, that's what's going to be the burning thing. And in fact, we had to do one question for our post-draft look, and that was the question I had. Did he do enough? I don't know if it's enough to win right now. I think it's enough to at least make them if the NFC South is still as bad as it was last year, to at least make them a factor, the second half of the season and having a chance to make the playoffs. And I think that's what's real most mind. You can ask him, I guess, because he never really answered it after the draft, is what was wrong with Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia. But I think he's going to tell you what he told us, that they just had McMillan ranked ahead of him and felt like the talent at wide receiver was not going to be there in the second round. It would be there in the second round at edge rusher. So, but again, Dan's probably going to dance around most of that. I think he's going to be more optimistic, though, because last year, if you remember, he was asked about expectations, and Dan said, I don't really have any expectations for this team. And a lot of people took that to mean he didn't think they were going to do anything, and they really didn't. But I think there are expectations starting to build right now. Maybe you ask him that. What are the expectations now? Because last year you didn't really have any for this team.
David, what do you think the next 2 to 3 months look like for Dan? I mean, the draft is over. They've got the new guys coming in. It's time to, start coaching those guys up. But, what does he do now to complement the draft picks that are in-house? I assume at the moment that they don't really have the money to go out and pay anyone because they don't have that kind of draft capital. But in your mind, are there guys on this roster whose contracts they can restructure to maybe find a little bit of extra cash?
Well, the key for me is what happens with David Clowney. I mean, he was brought in last year to give them a pass rush and provide that edge rusher that they need out of this 3-4 defense. And he really didn't get that out of it. He had 5.5 sacks. I know if you go back in the early days when they ran the 3-4 defense, you had Lamar Lathan and Kevin Green, and they're like double-digit sacks and got nicknames and everything, and they're causing havoc. They got to find a way to pressure the quarterback. And I got a feeling just from the way Dan kind of gave a non-answer about whether David will be on the roster next year means they're looking to move on from him and they can get something out of a trade with a team that's contender, because a contender would be a good fit for Xavier. And I'm not sure you can sell him that the Panthers are that right now. And they want to go young and aggressive, and I think the edge rushers they got gives them the opportunity, along with what they had already picked up. So, again, I think that's the biggest thing. What happens to guys like that? And there'll be some other veterans on the roster but are going to be challenged by some of these younger players. I mean, I don't see him moving on from Adam Thielen, but I mean, it's going to be tougher for Adam to get playing time on this roster, because I think if Xavier steps up in his second year, along with what you got out of McMillan, he's got to be bringing him in to start, because you don't, take players at number 8 you don't plan on starting. So I think that's going to be an interesting mix in how all that works. So, Dan's still going to be busy, but I think he did a pretty nice job during the pre-draft and free agency in adding players that could really put him in a position to do what he did in the draft.
So kind of playing off of that answer a little bit, David, when you look at what the Panthers did in round 2 at 51 and then round 3 at 77 with Nick Scourton, edge out of A&M, and then Princely out of Mississippi. You can pronounce his last name. I'm not going to try. But
I was waiting for you to do that. Come on.
All right, here we go. Princely Umanamalian.
I think that's pretty close. I don't want to have to say it on camera, because it'll be like the time I got one Pablo Montoya confused to the point I was tongue-tied.
It's Umanmielen.
Umanmielen.
I had to spell it out phonetically, David, so that I wouldn't mess it up today.
Umanmielen. Okay, I like that. So are these two guys, David, in your mind, projects? I mean, you don't want to normally take projects in the second and third round after missing on a guy in the first or not choosing an edge in the first. How quick do you think these guys see the field?
Yeah, I mean, I did ask Dan that question specifically. I said, do you think these guys are ready where they could be starters in their first year? Because we'd already gotten the impression that they could move on from Xavier. So, and he actually said, he can't promise they could start, but he actually feels like they have some of the traits and characteristics that allow them to go out there and be a factor for at least a lot of playing time and make an impact right away, because they're going to go with a rotation as the edge rushers. So I think between those two, and if Clowney stays, Clowney, but if not, you got DJ Wanham, and then you got Patrick Jones that they drafted or picked up in free agency. They really like him. So I think they feel like right now they've got like 5 or 6 guys to pick from, and if they can, you can't play them all. So if you can get a draft pick or something for Xavier, then maybe that's a good thing for this team moving forward. But yeah, you're doing. I just don't want to pick up any more players that I have to figure out how to pronounce their name.
At D Newton, ESPN joins us here on the Fan Upstate. We got access to a lot of those interviews with the Panthers' various draft picks. Which of those players, whether it's McMillan, Scourton, Umanmielen, Trevor Etienne, did any of those guys really impress you with their answers and their interview skills?
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell they had an edge or chip about them that they were want to improve themselves. Because I mean, look, none of them put up like outstanding sack numbers in college. So they're going to come in here in a system that encourages the edge rushers to have big numbers in sacks. So they're going to see some expectations out of those guys. But I think the guy who really intrigues me is their 5th round pick, Cam Jackson out of Florida. I mean, he's huge. I mean, 6'6", 328. I mean, the one thing they had, he's not a good pass rusher. He doesn't get to the quarterback. But, if you could put him at either, I look at 6'6", I think he'll probably line up for them, their, defensive end position there where it's normally a tackle, but it's just opposite of Derek Brown. If you get a guy like that can come and give you quality reps, he'll take up a lot of space and make it harder for teams to run on you. And that's something they got to fix right away. Derek Brown's going to help immediately. Having the guys they had, they brought back and signed are going to help. But this guy, I think if you can get him to be just sort of space eater, it's going to allow these outside guys on the edge to really make some plays. I'm kind of intrigued to see him play.
We talked about this, David, about a month ago when we had you on because the possibility was surfacing. But you tweeted out 18 hours ago, the news broke yesterday, that the Panthers have reached a 1-year deal with veteran receiver Hunter Renfrow. Do you have any idea, with Hunter being a Clemson guy and us being right here in the Upstate, any idea what the Panthers' plan for Hunter is?
Well, I think a lot of it, I haven't talked to Hunter, so I don't know what exactly happened with that. I haven't talked to Morgan or Canales, but I mean, he's a solid possession guy. He's a solid, team guy, and that influence. He's going to bring some of that influence that Adam Thielen brought to the receiver room. So I don't know exactly. I know his numbers dropped significantly after he was put on injured reserve a few years ago for a concussion. Don't know how much that played a role in the drop-off in what he was doing, but I feel like that if for him to want to come back, I think that's as big a question as anything. Is why does Hunter Renfrow want to come back? Does he believe that he's kind of at that point where he could be a contributor again? Obviously, the Panthers think he could be because they signed him. So I think that he's another guy, possession receiver, and they've just got a lot more targets. You got to create competition, as Dan keeps saying, and I think that's just another step in that process.
David, what should happen to Jax Ulbrich, the son of Jeff Ulbrich, the Atlanta Falcons DC, who got a hold of Shedeur Sanders' private phone number, prank called him? We saw it happen multiple times through the draft this year, and it's happened in the past. Unfortunately, it's an all too common occurrence. It seems really cruel to mess with a young man who's worked his butt off to get to that point, only to screw with their head. So should anything be done about this? I know the Falcons and the NFL have basically sat on their hands so far.
I guess you could put him in timeout. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it was the coach, I know what would happen. But I really, it was just a huge, as he said, I think in his message, was a huge mistake. And kids make big mistakes in their life when they're young like that. So it shouldn't have happened. I don't know how he got the number. They've got to figure all that out and see what's going to happen moving forward. But again, if it was a dad, it's an easy thing. If it's the son, I don't know. That's tough.
David, before we let you go, 6 hours ago at D Newton ESPN, you tweeted out some more news with a guy that we also covered right here in South Carolina, a guy that has a lot of upside in my mind out of the Gamecocks, Bam Martin-Scott, a signing recently with the Panthers. Do you feel like this one has some traction or has enough traction in your mind to actually pan out to be something other than just one of those post-draft signings that never go anywhere?
No, you never know with these guys. I mean, from Clemson a few years ago, the young linebacker Boulware, and he came in and I thought just because of the way he played in college and the toughness and the aggressive, everything about him seemed to fit, what they were looking for. But also he just didn't cut it. Size hurt him and just wasn't able to make it. So he didn't hang around. Some of these stories you never know. Those are some of the fun stories on who comes out of that undrafted group and makes it and who doesn't. Bam seems like he's definitely got the name for it. So if he can come out and show a little Bam on the practice field, then he's got a chance. I mean, those guys have to work their butt off even harder than the other guys just to have a chance to make the roster. And again, I love those stories because you gotta hope some of those guys make it, because that's exactly what they are. They're the guys that are down there having to really dig hard to make it. But I'm going to go back though. I'm amazed at how many Gamecocks the Panthers have had through their roster here in the last few years, because I covered some bad South Carolina teams back in the Sparky Woods and Brad Scott era, and nobody drafted those players. But now the fact that these guys are getting drafted and getting drafted highly, I mean, like Xavier Legette, like a Jaravian Clowney, and the fact that they're getting undrafted guys coming in here with a promise of maybe making the league, I think that says a lot more for South Carolina than anything else.
David, as always, we appreciate you, and be safe driving, and we'll do it again soon, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Thanks, David. Last 4 minutes of shirtless radio for me. Then I get to go back to wearing clothes like an adult until we do another bet and one of us loses. Who knows? Maybe I kind of like it, honestly.
You like losing bets?
No, I don't like losing bets, but I kind of like the freedom of being shirtless.
I'm always
That's
the
nice.
moment I walk into my door.
Don't finish that sentence. Please don't. I think I know where you're going with that.
No, it's not going to go bad.
You strip naked?
No, I'm just always shirtless.
Oh,
I'm always shirtless. People fuck. Why are you always shirtless? When I go home, I don't want to have a shirt on. I want to be free.
So anytime Uber Eats comes over, you're always shirtless.
DoorDash, Uber Eats,
wow,
Madcraft. Madcraft got mad. I didn't text them back this week.
So you're you're born and raised in Spartanburg, right? Mm-hmm. My hometown, Hickory, North Carolina, about an hour and 45 minutes from here. I'm not sure, Cole, that there's anything cool going on in my hometown. Like Hickory is known for what it used to be, not what it is now.
Yeah.
Spartanburg now has the Spartan Burgers is like the hottest ticket in town. That's the thing that everybody wants to go to.
Something.
Terrible
name.
Does anybody's hometown have anything cooler than this, than what you're known for? Like what is the attraction in your hometown? There is a small town in, I'm going to say this wrong, Lydbrook, Gloucestershire, United Kingdom.
Oh, yeah, I heard of that.
That is famous right now. It has a tourist attraction that's taken the countryside by storm. It is an abandoned couch. Just an abandoned sofa sitting out in the middle of nowhere.
Say
it's
that again?
Garbage.
Huh?
It's literal garbage. A dumped 2-seater sofa was found out in the middle of a field in Lydbrook, Gloucestershire, United Kingdom.
Really?
And now it is the area's hottest tourist attraction, Cole. It has its own Facebook page. It has its own professional dedicated photographer who is there waiting for the residents to come by, sit on the sofa, and take a photo. It's become a thing. Like it's a legit thing.
What's so special about it, though?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, it's a love seat. So
I thought when people put them on the side of the road, that means come get them.
Yeah, well, you see those things out in Inman all the time. Yeah. Just dump sofas on the side of the road. Don't see anybody stopping to take photos with it. But this, it's like a white sofa with like a florally pattern all over it, and over 150 residents have come to take a picture on this thing.
That's weird.
You know that somebody has peed on it. Why would you sit on it for a photo?
Promo. Panther fans, tune in tomorrow. Dan Morgan, general manager, will have him on at 4:20. Tolo